Hello, everybody. I am Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker and the host of this Halt and Catch Fire rewatch podcast. Now, when I speak, my topic is something I call Take the Doughnut, which is another way of saying carpe diem, go after the things that you want in life. Something I wanted to do this year was rewatch the show Halt and Catch Fire, and this time talk about it with other people, with all of you. And here we are. And today we're going to talk about season 4, episode 8. It was called Goodwill. Before we get into it, though, I just wanted to let you know the most recent interview that I dropped was with Aaron Kirkendall, who he had a couple different jobs in the assistant director realm. He was the second AD and then the key second AD. These are jobs that I didn't know a thing about going into it. So I had to say, Aaron, can you maybe bullet point out for me some things that you did in this job? And then I constructed some questions around it, and it led to a fascinating conversation because he has a totally different lens to look through on this show than anybody else that I've spoken to so far. And I think there's a lot to learn from it. I also got to do, I don't know if it was on the bucket list, but it probably should have been. He actually walked us through a call sheet for the show because I've heard people talk about how complicated call sheets are, and I never knew why. So now we've seen one. So I hope you enjoy that interview. Now, one more piece of housekeeping before we get into this episode is that we've got 2 more episodes of the show to recap after this one, 409 and 410. And my schedule is going to be a bit different for those. I'm going to be traveling the week that I'm supposed to be for keynote, the week that I'm supposed to be dropping the last episode, or recording it at least. So I have to slide it up, and I have to record both episodes next weekend. So I'm going to be recording 409 on October 12th and 410 on October 13th. If you want to get feedback in specifically for those, make sure that you do like a spoiler comment on YouTube, or you can reach me on Instagram at the Halt and Catch Fire podcast handle. Or, you can also check out my website and you can find my email address through that. So a few different ways to do it, but I just wanted you to be alert to the fact that that's going to be happening. And that's going to be quite the challenge to try to record 2 of these episodes in one weekend, but I'm up for it. I'm ready to go. So today we're going to talk about the episode Goodwill, which was episode 408. And, when we think about episode titles, I like this one because it really means more than one thing. There's Goodwill as the nonprofit where, they're donating the clothes and where we get a couple funny scenes here. But there's also the goodwill that you feel between the characters of this show. And I think that this title really perfectly symbolizes both of those things. Now, this was directed by Christopher Cantwell, and I just feel almost proud of Christopher Cantwell, which makes no sense at all because who am I to be feeling proud of Christopher Cantwell? But he and Christopher C. Rogers start this show. They're brand new to this scene. They have a more experienced showrunner, and then the reins get handed over to them for seasons 3 and 4. And now we've got Christopher Cantwell directing like the one of the most important referenced episodes of this show, and he just knocked it out of the park. It's so good. It was written by Zach Whedon. And here's a description. Everyone heads over to Gordon's house to help clear it out. Donna has an argument with Joni and later makes amends with Cameron. Bosworth tries to get everyone together for dinner. Before I get into the scene by scene breakdown, I've just got to be really transparent with you. I've recorded the entire thing, this whole recap, and then I lost the file. So this is me recording it for a second time, and I hope that I can bring the emotion to it that I had the first time. And let's see how that goes. Look, let's get into the scene by scene breakdown. I think the important thing to note here is that this episode is going to be framed by scenes from the 70s. And it's jarring, right? It's perfect. I think a lot of times when there are shows that do flashbacks, it doesn't always work. Sometimes it feels forced or it feels gimmicky. And in this show, in this episode, it's needed and important, and it adds relevance to everything that's happening in present day. And I think it's a great choice for this episode. But the other effect that it has is that, look, Gordon just passed away. We're grieving that as an audience. And the first thing we see on our screen is Gordon. So it's like, wait a minute, because you figure we're going to be dealing with his death, but now we're getting new information about him from the character itself, and it's just strange and it catches you off guard. And I think it's a great way to get us into this episode. So for the 1970s, we're going to start with a close-up of the Clark fridge, and it says, impeach Nixon, he bugs me. So you know straight away, we're not in the 90s anymore. Gordon opens the fridge. He grabs a Heisler, which is a fake beer brand often used in TV shows. And Donna is very gingerly going to close the door to Joni's bedroom. We're going to get the green and white wallpaper. We're definitely in a different decade right now, and they look different. Gordon's got the big hair and the big sideburns, the very sideburns that Katie is going to reference later in this episode. So this is the time period of the Gordon that she's like, oh, Donna, that was amazing, that Gordon you experienced. We're going to see it in a slightly different light now, aren't we? So Gordon's it all starts so cute. Gordon's like, is she down? Donna says, yeah, is it over? Please tell me it's over. I love my parents, but good God. Gordon says they're gone. In an hour, they'll be in the air on the way back to Texas. They're gone. Their TWA is problem now. TWA was an airline that is no longer around. So many airlines are no longer around. So many mergers over time. Donna's going to sort of collapse onto the floor, and Gordon's going to kneel down next to her. He's like, but no, why? He kisses her. It's all so cute right now. She says, promise me we'll never look at each other the way they do. Give it 5 minutes, Donna. 5. Gordon says, can't promise that, because 5 minutes from now, Donna. All right. So Donna says, sorry they drive you so crazy. Gordon's like, what are you talking about? They were great. You see what your dad got me? He goes to the kitchen. He's going to grab the electric meat carver. And he says, it's the perfect reminder of how unmanly he thinks I am. And he whirs it. So I think, first of all, this is the same implement that Donna is going to find in Gordon's kitchen later and throw it away. We'll get back to that at that point. Also, there's more I want to say about this in a moment, but like, this is the gift. Her parents definitely do not like Gordon. They don't think that he's good enough for her. We've known that from the beginning. Gordon feels that this is a passive aggressive gift that he's been given. Donna's like, oh, screechy. Gordon says, yeah, why we need to improve upon a tool that's been serving mankind brilliantly for millions of years is beyond me. He means the knife, of course, and he's going to whir the electric tool again. And she's like, you're going to wake her up. You're going to wake the baby. He makes a comment like, this thing's really sharp. Give me an old boot. Let's see what this thing can do. It's a reference, I think, from Charlie Chaplin's The Gold Rush. There's a whole scene in there where he makes a meal of his boot. So Donna says, oh, I'm always amazed at what my mom can do with a glass of Chardonnay in her hand. She could join the circus. Donna is grabbing glasses from the table. She's starting to clean things up. She's got one of the, I guess, her mom's wine glass. And it's something that you think about when you think about present day Donna, who's really been dealing with a drinking problem in season 4. And we know that her mom had she had a drinking problem, or she had a habit of drinking. I don't know to what extent it was alcoholism, but it's something that Donna is referencing here. And it seems like a behavior she learned, like is Donna an alcoholic? She learned this behavior certainly from Susan. And is it that they both have a predisposition to alcoholism or some side, there's a lot to consider here, but we know that this is something that she saw her mom doing because we're seeing it in the 70s. Gordon says, hey, do you think they had fun? Donna says, yeah, I'm not sure my mom approved of the building or the neighborhood for that matter, but it's all about appearances to her. Donna puts the glasses in the sink. And this is Donna saying that about her mom. Well, Joni's going to say the same thing about Donna 20 years from now, almost 20 years from now. So, how a slightly different lens on a situation changes things, or, the next generation coming up behind you. We have met Susan though, and it feels true what she's saying of Susan. Is it true of Donna? I mean, Joni's had a chance to see Donna's behavior, and it feels true to Joni. So, is Donna following after her mom? Maybe. So Gordon's saying, yeah, did you hear what your dad said about the peanut farmer and his whole energy conservation diatribe? He's throwing away a paper plate and tidying some things up in the living room. She says, no, I can't. Gordon says, or the line about how we should live in an area with more homeowners than renters. You know what that's code for. So we're seeing that this couple and Donna's parents have different value systems as well. Donna says, well, at least they're good with Joni. Gordon says, your mom is great with her. She says, well, so is my dad. So an interesting parallel, right? Because Gordon's noticing that Susan perhaps is better with the grandchild than Donna's dad. And that's sort of how the genders match up here with Donna and Gordon as well, and how they take care of their kid. So Donna says, well, so is my dad. Gordon's like, well, I mean, he didn't strike the child. If that's what you mean, he wasn't actively mean. Donna is a little passive aggressive here, but she's smiling. She's like, yeah, he also managed not to set off any fireworks next to her head. So this conversation that started cute is going to end in an argument. And somewhere along the way, it has to take a turn. And I think that's where it did it. Granted, talking about her parents isn't like the happiest thing, but she's saying like, you set off a firework next to our kid's head. Gordon's annoyed. He said it was one bottle rocket. You just know that it's something that was made a big deal of at the time. And Gordon's like, enough already with the bottle rocket. Donna says, my God, did you see the look on his face when Joni spit up on his special 4th of July polo? Gordon says, hey, she was doing that t-shirt a favor. Donna says, well, he tries to help. He just doesn't always know how. Gordon says, well, offering to buy us a house as long as it's in Dallas. So they're living in California right now, near the San Francisco area. And this was her dad's way of saying, yeah, so glad to support. Come move to us. That's what we'll do. Donna says, oh, come on. I mean, would it be the worst thing in the world if we had a little bit of help? So she's been thinking about this. And Gordon's like, we don't need help. We could do this ourselves. Who needs a guy? You might be asking. Donna says, why, do you want to live here forever in this place? Gordon's like, look, Donna, we're not going to live here forever. Okay. We're going to build something, a machine. Okay. And we're going to sell it together. I was like, oh yeah. And why are we going to do that? Between nursing and changing diapers and being the only one who can get the baby to sleep, I don't really see a whole lot of time for building computers in my future. So now this is really on its way to becoming a fight. Gordon's like, well, it's not always going to be like that. She says, yeah, what's going to change? He says, I don't know, everything. Donna says, well, I hope so, because I don't want to be breastfeeding and doing dishes the rest of my life. Gordon's like, it's been 3 months. Donna says, well, in Texas, I'd be freed up to go to work, and so would you. Gordon says, we're not actually talking about moving back to Texas right now, are we? Donna says, my mom said that if we wanted. Gordon's like, whoa, you've been talking to your mom about this? She's like, well, he's like, you guys are making plans. She says, in broad hypothetical terms. Look, her mom's been doing this forever. We've met her mom. We met her mom in the 80s, and we saw that her mom didn't want Donna to be with Gordon. She was all too happy to sort of get Donna away from Gordon whenever she could. When Donna was thinking about leaving Gordon right before Comdex, Susan was like, let me take the kids. You use that time to separate from Gordon. She is very happy to get Donna closer to her. And I think she's made her thoughts, her position known. And Donna has always been prepared to accept the help. And we're seeing that pattern, the earlier stages of it here. Gordon's like, no, Donna, listen to me. This industry is all about who we know. And if we leave, we miss it. Okay. That's not help. That's offering to kill us slowly. That's a death sentence. This resonates on more than one level, because saying death sentence, Gordon saying that, we know he just died. So that hits us a little harder, even though it's a different context. Also, I suppose he's not wrong, because, I don't know exactly when they made this move, But we know that by the time they get to Comdex 80 and they bring the symphonic there, it doesn't work out for them. So had they moved too early? Did they not have the connections they needed? Did they indeed miss it? Was he foretelling something that was really true here? Donna's like, no, they're just seeing us struggling is all, specifically Donna. Gordon is effusive. He says, well, I'll do more. Okay, I'll help. She says, oh yeah, every time the baby cries, you hand her back to me. Gordon says, okay, well, I won't do that. Well, he's not going to have an opportunity to show her that in a minute and will not take her up on it. Donna says, okay, it's not just that. I'm concerned about everything she sees and eats and touches, and you're exploding fireworks next to her head. He's just exasperated now. Oh my God, Donna, I was one bottle rocket. Okay, look, if you want to leave, let's just pack up everything right now. She sort of is exasperated herself with that. He says, no, I'm serious. Let's just pack up everything. Let's move back to Texas and I'll go get a job working for one of your dad's friends and you can go play golf with your mom every day. And Donna's incredulous. She's like, that's what you think I want? He is being a lot right now. He is being a bit over dramatic with the situation. Sort of. Because I do have a thought about Donna and her mom as well, but he says, look, I don't know what the hell you want. Okay. Yesterday it was me in San Francisco and building something. And today I don't have a clue. He's angry. He's panicking because he's seeing sort of the future that he envisioned for them flashing before his eyes as she tries, because she's actually trying to provide a solution here that could get them to some of the dreams he's describing. But also they come at a cost. So, like they need to have a really adult discussion right now about what the future is going to look like with a kid here. Yes, we have dreams, and it's not to say dreams can't happen, but we also have some very real responsibilities. And the only way they can find the way forward is to talk about how they're going to find the way forward. And if this is what's going to happen when they do that, that doesn't seem very hopeful for them. And Donna's like, oh, you feel like you didn't make any decisions? Was I the one who got down on one knee and proposed to you? The baby's screaming now. She woke up from the fight that she's hearing. Gordon's like, oh God. Donna looks back at the baby's door and she's got this expression on her face like, are you going to get that? Like daring him. He doesn't move. She says, oh, I guess I'll get her then. Weird. That almost never happens. Gordon says, just let her cry. Look, I'm sure that's a philosophy that people can go with, but they haven't talked about that. So the result of it is he just lets her cry. Donna goes to help, and the bitterness ensues. Donna's going to go into Joni's room. She slams the door and she starts taking care of baby Joni. Gordon thinks a bit. He grabs the keys. He leaves the house. And look, I'm not a fan of Gordon just upping and leaving and not telling Donna like, hey, I need a day. Like he's not going to say any of that. It's mean, it's harsh, it's difficult. Also though, I feel like the way Donna is with her parents, the way that Donna is allowing her parents to be regarding Gordon is its own form of betrayal too. It would hurt if you're Gordon. And, when we see Gordon in the 80s and we see how this has continued, like her parents can say whatever snide thing they want about Gordon. They can do whatever they want because they've helped Donna and Gordon in the past. And so it seems to give them license to say and do anything they want about Gordon. They're going to help Donna, but they don't care about Gordon. And that message comes across very clearly. And Donna is never seems to be willing to say, stop it. And it's the price that she is paying for getting their help. And these are choices that she's making. And it's complicated, right? I mean, who's doing the right things? Who's doing the wrong things? Gordon's upset. He already is feeling slighted by her parents at this point, and probably by extension by her. And he's also not accepted the reality of the situation. So it's, here we are wanting to mourn this great man, this friend of ours that passed away, and they're going to show us past scenes from his not best moment. And It's something to think about. 4:07 a.m. We look at the alarm clock. We see a photo of two young boys on the nightstand, probably Gordon and his brother, I'm thinking. The baby's crying, the baby's screaming. Donna's bouncing her, trying to comfort her. She's like, I know it's going to be okay. She just holds up the elephant. She says, you want your little elephant? It's not so bad. So Donna is needing about as much comfort as Joni needs in this moment because she's freaking out. Where's her husband? Like, where is Gordon right now? Is he coming back at all? Is this it? Is this what's happening now? So, and I took note of the elephant. It makes me think maybe she's saying baby mine to both of her kids, and the elephant was a symbol to both of them. Where's Gordon though right now? He's standing against his car at a gas station. He's watching a man in a phone booth on the phone. And then the guy gets off the phone and Gordon walks like he's walking towards the phone booth. And he veers away from it, even though it's available. And he throws out the wrapper of the food that he was eating. And then he goes back to his car. So Gordon could have called and opted not to. And then as he's walking back to his car, we see an 18-wheeler pulling out, and on it, it says roadway in big letters. Gordon's going to get in his car. He's going to drive through a red light on Pleasant Hill Road. And where's he going to go? Who knows, but it's probably not going to be home. So that's where we start this episode. We're going to go to present day now, and we're going to see Gordon Clark's memorial brochure. It's partially in, partially out of focus. Then we see a shot of his tape player, a shot of a crumpled up piece of paper, a shot of the large photo and easel that you would have had displayed for his funeral. It's leaning on a trunk in his house. So we're in his house. We see some Navajo blankets, if you will. The door opens, the front door opens. Donna is opening it and she's letting Joni and Haley in. Joni says, I don't understand what the rush is. Donna says, well, the rush is I want to get this over with. I don't want to make a million trips back and forth here. So whatever you want, get it now. And then she tells them to hold on. They turn around. She says, okay, here's the deal. For big stuff, furniture, we can't move ourselves. We've got some stickers here. Green means keep, red means donate. Okay, green, keep, red, donate. They said, okay, they got it. They start to walk away. Haley is being very quiet. You know, Joni's a little bit more verbal in her grief and Haley's very quiet in her grief, but her hair is fixed up. So obviously she cut her hair herself. It was a mess when she first did that. And now there's probably been a lot of family visiting. Donna probably took her to a hairdresser and kind of cleaned up the edges of it. So, you know, want to make sure the kids look good. I'm sure Joni noticed that. Donna says, okay, start in your rooms. Don't forget your schoolwork, your textbooks. Interesting shot they choose here. So we're going to see Donna. If you remember when we were watching Gordon die, sort of the last stretch that he walked, he was standing in front of the last two archways before he was going to walk through them towards Haley's room. And here we see Donna standing in front of two archways, but her kids are on the other end and they're a little out of focus. She calls back to them. She says, I love you. And they say they love her too. And they go to their rooms. So she's assigned some tasks to them, but now Donna needs to figure out what to do. So first of all, we're going to get a shot looking out at Donna from around a corner, from around a wall. And I like that they do this in this episode. This is not the first time we've seen a choice like this from directors in this show. I especially remember an episode in season 3 with Tom and Cam at their house, where we were often looking out from behind walls, and with Joe and Cam as well. And so we've seen this before, but in this context, I feel like Gordon's spirit is in the house looking out at them from around walls. So Donna doesn't really know where to start. She starts putting some stickers on things. We're going to see some of the Southwestern decor around, you know, some of the wall hangings and such. She opens up a drawer. She sees a picture of Gordon and the kids. She's like, ooh, not ready for that. She puts that back. The doorbell rings, and outside the house, Joe and Cameron are getting things ready. So we see Joe first. He is bringing empty boxes up the sort of stair pathway, and he leans them against the house. He exhales. He's not quite ready to go into the house. He starts going back down the stairs to get more stuff to bring in. This front of this house is so impressive. When Donna comes out and stands in it in a second, we're going to see how small she is in comparison to this huge archway. And then there are these huge planters on each side, and then there are huge light fixtures. And it just looks like such a big, oversized house. And, Gordon's done well for himself, or he did well for himself in his life. So, so Donna's going to come to the door. She says, "Hey guys." Joe stops and turns. He says, "Hey, how are the girls doing?" Well, that's a stupid question. We're all terrible. Everyone's terrible. How are you doing? And she just sort of chuckles. She says, she gestures to the boxes. She says, "Thanks for helping out." He says, "Of course, the service was beautiful." We're going to get this refrain a few times in this episode. Donna says, "Yeah, I thought what you said was really nice. Do you have a copy of that? I'd love to save it for the girls." Once again, Joe, I feel like for me, I want to hear what he said because of the grief that we all feel and maybe some of the peace that it brings. And it's a much more raw reaction. But also we kind of know what he would have said about Gordon. I doubt there's going to be any super surprising information that comes out from that. We know what the strength of that bond was. So I'm sort of okay with leaving that where it was. I think this show makes a really interesting choice that most shows don't choose to make. Other shows, when they have weddings and funerals, they show you those ceremonies and they build a whole episode around it. And this show, you get a wedding, you get a funeral, that's going to happen off screen. You don't get to see that. We're not spending time on that. We'd rather spend time in the relationships. We'd rather spend time sorting through Gordon's stuff. And I think that's something unique about this show that makes it so resonant, because they don't want to put us through the rigmarole. They want to get to the real moments. And if we didn't get Joe's speech along the way, his eulogy for Gordon, that's a sacrifice we make to get the stuff that we get in this episode. So Joe, he's happy to give her a copy of that. Cam comes up behind him on the stair pathway, and Cam says, "Hey." She comes up to the top of the stairs. She's got bubble wrap and more boxes. She says, "I wanted to say how beautiful the service was, like really personal." Donna says, "Thanks." It's all so weird. What do you say in this moment? Joe says, "Okay, where would you like us to start?" Donna's going to give Joe an instruction. He says, "Yeah, it's a little hard to figure out, but maybe you could tackle Gordon's closet. Throw his clothes into garbage bags, bring it to Goodwill." Joe agrees. He's going to do that. Donna is going to go into the house. Cam, it's time to go inside the house. Cam looks back at Joe with some pain in her face, and he's got it too. So she's going to follow Donna into the house. Joe sort of surveys outside. He goes back down to get some more things from the car. When we go into the house, Donna and Cam are walking through. Donna says, "I'm going to start in the kitchen. If you wanted to pack up everything in here, sort of the TV room, the living room." She says, "That'd be great." Cam says, "Yeah." Donna says, "Okay, so keep the pictures for the girls. I think they'll probably want them eventually." Cam agrees. Donna leaves to go to the kitchen. Cam sighs. Donna's looking around. She's given everybody else a task, but it's like, well, what do I do? She goes back out to Cam. She says, "Could you put something on?" Cam's like, Donna says, it's too quiet. Just something, anything, any sort of music. What an impossible task. I mean, Cam says, "Okay, yeah." She goes over to the record collection. She's looking through it, and she's just going to get lost in it, because what song do you want to forever associate with this? So Donna starts putting things in the trash from the kitchen, including the electric meat carver that we found earlier. And this makes me sad for Gordon, because Gordon has moved more than once since the scene we saw in the 70s. He has chosen every time to keep the electric meat carver. That is a reminder of Donna's dad thinking that Gordon is not good enough, not manly enough. Even after he divorced Donna and no longer has this father-in-law in his life, he kept this man's insult to him, or at least that's what he perceives it to be. So he chose to keep it. And as grounded and sort of stable as I find Gordon in season 4, it pains me to know that he still felt he deserved to keep this electric meat carver. There's no music yet, so Donna goes back out to Cam. She's struggling to find the music because really, what do you play in this situation? We're going to see Cam. The camera is set up behind the record cubby, so we're looking through the cubby hole to Cam. And then Cam sees Donna. She says, I don't know. I'm sorry. Nothing feels right. Donna picks one out. She says, this is perfect. It's the Dire Straits album, Brothers in Arms, one that I'm very familiar with from when I was younger. Cam puts it on, and So Far Away is going to start playing for us and for them. Cam is boxing up things in the living room. Donna's in the kitchen, boxing up things there. Joe's going through Gordon's clothes. It sort of kills me the moment when Cam puts a video game controller and it wraps it up and puts it in the box, like, well, won't be playing Super Mario Brothers with Gordon anymore. Or any other game for that matter. Haley's taking down a They Might Be Giants poster from her room. So everybody is being industrious. They're getting some things done in here. So that's the latest. Now Cam is going to be looking around. She looks at a drawer of photos. She sees photos of the 4 of them. She sees Gordon and Donna and Joe and Cam photos, and she smiles, and she's going to take them and she's going to put those in the back of her pants to save them for herself. But she takes the rest of the box of photos. She's probably going to save those for the kids. I just want to reflect, like, I wish I knew what the layout of this house was, because it feels like there's more than one living room. Maybe somebody can walk me through that, because there's all this speculation about what room Gordon died in, what room was the phone in that Katie got to. And I don't know that that's the same room as what Cam's in right now. So trying to work this out in my head, I'm a little bit confused and I need some support on this because I'm going to talk myself into a circle, but just know that I'm confused about the house layout as we're going through. Okay, Haley's rolling up her posters. We've got Joni looking through photos. Donna looks in the fridge and finds so many jars of capers because that man had learned to cook and loved it. And loves his capers. We see a photo on the fridge of Gordon and Katie looking happy because Donna's looking at it. And we're going to reassess that photo and her feelings about that photo from so many angles in this episode. Joe comes into the hallway. He's going to check out a jacket that Gordon had. He pulls a book out of it, and it's Streets of Laredo, which I have not read, but it's a 1993 Western novel by American writer Larry McMurtry. It's the second book in the Lonesome Dove series. It is a gripping Western novel that follows the story of retired Texas Ranger Woodrow Call as he tracks down a dangerous outlaw. Filled with action, suspense, and rich character development, it is a captivating tale of the Wild West. Take from that what you will. But there's a bookmarker in the book, and Joe opens to the page, and it's like, the closest you can get to Gordon right now is to sort of be having the moments that he had at the very end of his life. So like Joe choosing to sit in front of the whiteboard that said relaunch, that Gordon had written that as the last message to him. Joe looking at this book and going to the last page that Gordon read. That's like the closest Joe can get to Gordon now. And he's just going to close his eyes. Haley's room is getting barer. She's sitting on a bed looking sad, and Donna knocks. She comes in and sits next to Haley, and it's so sweet. Donna sort of just nudges her a little bit with her arm, kind of rocks her gently a little bit by doing that. And Haley, she smiles and she puts her head on Donna's shoulder. Donna kisses her daughter as the music fades, the So Far Away music fades. Joni, meanwhile, is in her room looking at photos, listening to music, but her room is not packed at all. Donna knocks and comes in. And the beginning of this is a moment of great parenting, I think. Joni says, check this out. She's got this one photo. She holds it up. Donna's like, oh my gosh, yeah. I love this one. She says, this is from when we went to that pumpkin patch in Garland. Donna says, can you believe there was a time that you got this excited about pumpkins? Joni says, I still get excited about pumpkins. Pumpkins blow my mind. Donna sees that nothing is packed, and I think she takes a great tack with Joni here. She says, you don't have to get rid of anything. You could just pack up your whole room. Joni takes off the headphones. She looks around. She says, I just don't know where to start. Donna smooths her hair. Do you need some help? Joni says, yeah. So Donna says, okay. So she gets up and she says, let's start with your clothes. That's easy. Joni goes over to the hanging clothes in the closet. Donna goes to her dresser, pulls out the first drawer. She says, so just everything? Joni says, yeah, I think so. So they're both going to start throwing things into a box. Donna opens up a second drawer. She picks up all the clothes, but wait a minute, there's something else in here, papers. She picks those up. She says, wait, what's this? USC, Northwestern? What are these? Are these duplicates? Did you send, like, you did send in your applications, yeah, to college? Joni's like, oh no, oh my God. She says, I don't want to talk about this right now, okay? She sort of stiffens up. Donna says very firmly, we are talking about this. We're talking about it right now. Joni leaves the room. She's hoping that maybe if she goes into a public place, this conversation will stop. But Donna follows her, and we're going to follow her into a living room, the living room. Cam is in here. She's opening up the TV cabinet and there's static on the TV. So Gordon was watching something. He didn't turn it off when it finished and now it's static. Joni runs in upset. Donna's following her. Joni's like, leave me alone. Donna says, you told us you sent these. Cam says, what's going on? Joni says, well, I didn't. Donna very quietly says, can we talk about this privately? She followed Joni into a room with a bunch of people because she wants to have the conversation. She's going to have it no matter what. And, Joni maybe thought that by getting into a public space that Donna wouldn't want people to think badly of the family. But she is misinformed. Joni is like, oh, why not here? Why can't we have the conversation here? Why? You don't want them to see? Joe is walking towards this room. They're shouting pretty much at this point. He comes into the archway. He's holding a bunch of clothes. He's watching. Joni says, why are you afraid of what they might think? Donna says, that's enough. Let's go outside. Haley opens the door to observe this fight. Joni says, no, let's let them see what a mess we've been. She's crying. Donna gestures with the application. She says, I don't know why you're doing this. Your father he'd be devastated. Joni glares at her and Joe looks away. This is how you know Donna just went too far by bringing Gordon into it, because Donna hurt everybody in this house by bringing Gordon's thoughts into a fight. Joe can't even, he's like, oh no. Joni is going to make Donna pay for having said that. Joni said, well, it's a good thing that he's not here to see it then. Donna can't believe she said that. Haley looks pained to have heard it. She's doesn't want any part of this conversation. Donna's like, that's a horrible thing to say. Cam just closes her eyes. Joe starts walking away to give him a little bit more space, but he's still in earshot. And Joni says, how long did it take you to use dad against me? 10 days? Okay, so that's some helpful exposition too. It's been 10 days since his death. Donna knows that what she said might have crossed the line, but she's still so mad and she can't back down. So Joni's like, I'm surprised you could hold out that long, 10 days. Haley slams her door. Joni's eyes follow where Haley's door slammed and she knows she just hurt her sister. Donna is like, sometimes I don't even know who you are anymore. We're all hurting. We're all upset. Joni says, what do you know? You couldn't even stand him. Donna's taken aback by this and Joni's going to leave. Donna's reeling from this and Joe just inhales from the other room. I mean, this is the ugly stuff that comes out, and Donna maybe took this a step too far with invoking Gordon into this situation. Nobody really wanted that. And, this is a conversation that Joni and Donna eventually need to have. Okay, so we take a little break here. We come back and Cam is wrapping up a glass. She smells something. Donna comes in. Cam says, okay, so Joe just took the first load of clothes to Goodwill. Donna's like, do you smell that? Cigarette smoke. I'm going to kill her. Cam says, she just wants to piss you off. It's the exact same thing I would have done when I was 17. Donna says, look, I did my fair share of teenage BS, but we're watching them. And the choice for this conversation is, I guess there's two doorways going into the kitchen. And there's somebody like where the camera's peering out from one doorway looking at Donna and the other door looking at Cam. So it's like Gordon's watching them each separately. Cam says, she wants to be a jerk. Let her be a jerk. Donna says, I don't know that's a strong enough word for what she's being. She kind of wants backup here, but this is really dangerous waters for Cam. Donna and Cam are not on good terms. At this moment, they're not on the terrible terms they've been on, but like this is fragile. And Cam doesn't totally agree with what Donna just did. And, you know, she is saying like your daughter's being a jerk, yes. But also she's like, you were kind of a jerk, but she can't say that. So Donna's so fired up and she's like, I mean, she lost it at me. She's the one who didn't send them in. I'm so reluctant here. She's still putting things in a box. She says, I don't know if reason's going to be that helpful to you in this situation. Donna sits and she admits, I probably shouldn't have brought up Gordon. And that's the thing Donna needed to say herself. Cam couldn't say that. It's too fragile between them. Cam's like, probably not. Donna's voice gets a little louder. She says, I mean, was it not clear she disrespected me? Okay. Cam says, can I just go talk to her? Donna says, yes. Cam leaves and Donna spits back. Tell her she's being an asshole. Yeah, I mean, Donna she's feisty, that one. All right, Joni is smoking. Cam knocks on her door. Joni's like, don't open the door. Cam comes in anyway. Oops. Really good one. Your mom's totally freaking out right now. Joni's like, yeah. Cam says, you don't get 1,000,000 points for subtlety, but still very effective. Joni says, I really wasn't trying to do anything. I just needed to smoke. Cam holds out her hand to get the cigarette. She smokes it and then she puts it out. And Joni's like, Cam says, what's up? So they're going to have a conversation. But first, we're going to see Donna is in the living room when Joe comes back to the house. He says, hello. She says, in here. He says, where is everybody? She says, scattered to the far corners of the house, some avoiding me, others also avoiding me. Joe's like, do I smell cigarette smoke? She smiles and says, you do. So funny that you noticed that. And Joe laughs like Joni. She says, uh-huh. And then Donna gives him a concerned look. She says, how are you holding up? Look, this just reminds me that they will forever think about the fact that they were together when they found out Gordon died. Like the things they did the day he died are always going to be the things they did the day he died. And they were together, Donna and Joe, who don't often get paired together in this show. On this most important day, they were together and it started with a fight, but they sort of made peace by the end. She basically smashed his hand to smithereens, so we'll probably connect it with that too. But Donna, like the first person she could go to even a little bit unload was Joe. And that's who she told. That's the first person she told about Gordon. So, that's forever going to bond them, for better or for worse. And here she's saying, how are you doing? So, it's nice to be checking in with him despite some of their friction in the past. So let's see. Haley's going to interrupt this. He doesn't have a chance to answer. Haley's like, what the hell? She comes in. Donna says, what's wrong? She says, Dad's clothes, where are they? Joe's like, oh no, what happened? I just got back from Goodwill. She says, oh. Donna says, honey, what's wrong? Talk to me. Haley says, Dad's sweater. I wanted to keep it. It's the green one, but forget it. Like it's already gone. Donna is just crushed for her daughter. Joe says, no. I just got back. You want your dad's sweater? Haley nods. He says, we're going to go get it. Come on. And he sort of looks back at her and sort of waves for her to come with him. She's been so unable to sort of speak and articulate in her grief that we've seen so far that she had a thing she wanted and she didn't get it out there in time. Donna's going to watch them go and they're going to go on a mission. They're going to go on a quest together. First, we're going to see Cam and Joni, though. Joni says, I bet she is more upset about the fact that she has to tell her friends I'm not going to college than the fact that I'm not going. Cam calls BS on that. She's like, oh, Joni, come on. You know that's not true. And I don't know if it is true or not. I mean, look, Joni has the information she has. She's the one who called it with the famous salad bit with the Rover team. She's seen a tendency for Donna to be about appearances, and she has seen a tendency for that to also impact how she treats her girls. And I'm not going to say that's not true. It might be reductive. It might be that appearances matter and also Joni's well-being. But I think this is Joni's take, and it's not dissimilar to Donna's take about her mom. So why not? Joni says everything's appearances with her. Look at my perfect house and my perfect pool and my perfect daughters. Did you know she irons her jeans? Cam's like, okay, you don't say things you can't take back. It's sort of funny because it's like a real admonishment that's like, be careful about going further than this. But also like, if the worst thing that Joni says is, did you know she irons her jeans? That's probably still okay. Cam smiles, Joni smiles. She's getting through. Cam sits down on the floor with her. She says, you need to give her a break. Joni's like, give her a break. Cam says, yeah, you know why? You're hard to navigate because you're a dick. Joni's like, what? She chuckles a little bit. She says, and I say that because I'm a dick. I'm like huge. I'm queen big dick. Okay, that's weird, right? And Joni's like, yeah, that's weird. Cam says, the point is, you two just try and understand where your mom's coming from, and vice versa, of course. Pause there. I like that she does that. I feel like I've known adults who they talk about kids and they're like, no, they need to show respect to me. And my feeling is you need to show respect to each other. Like now how you show respect might look slightly different depending on the age, but even a small young person is still a person. And so I like that Cam has basically said to each of these people, like, well, like, you're right and they're right. Like just give it a minute here. Just think about it. I like that she's saying that. She's going to go on to say something that is just one more piece of the puzzle for us about Cam's upbringing. But look, when I was your age, I cut my mom out of my life, and you don't want to do that. I mean, I had a good reason to. My mom was a mess, like missed my graduation because she drank too much mouthwash, kind of a mess. But still, it's time you can't get back. So it's something that Cam felt she had good reason. She has reassessed it as the years have gone on. But this is a piece of information that we didn't have before. And it's been the piece of information I've been waiting on. Every time I told you they were going to get more information about Cam's mom and her upbringing, this is what I was thinking of. And I couldn't remember how much she said. But the thing is, like, all of this is Cam's mom. When we think about the version, her mom putting Cam in pageants so she'd be perfect, that was probably right after her dad died. And then, get closer to graduation. And now we've got a woman who's coping with substance use and missing important moments for Cam. So Cam probably tried to steer herself in the opposite direction from that on principle. But we'll have some comments in the feedback section we can unpack this a bit more. Joni is hopeful. She says, I could stay with you. Cam smiles. She's like, yeah, the two of us in my tin can. Joni says, yeah, and I could get another trailer and I could bring it out there. It'd be awesome. Cam says, oh, Joni, like, no. Like, I'm not buying into this. She says, like, I can't even take care of a plant. Joni is a little offended. She says, I don't need to be taken care of. Everybody looks at me like I can't do anything for myself, like I'm in diapers. And it's interesting to put a line like that in this episode because at the beginning of and the end of the episode, we see a Joni in diapers. So we do think of her a little bit like that, more so than we ever have. Cam says, okay, I'm sorry. That's not what I meant. I just mean, this is why college is so great. You get to go and be by yourself for the first time. You could do whatever you want to do, smoke whatever you want to smoke, learn about the things that interest you. And if you don't know what those are, you get to figure it out. I mean, it's the perfect. Joni stops her. She says, I know. So it's interesting. What does Joni have in mind? What is she thinking that she wants to do? Is she not wanting to go to school because she's trying to steer away from the direction that she thinks her parents wants her to go, or is there something else that's of interest to her? We're going to get a close-up of Haley through her passenger window. She's wearing some headphones. We're going to hear Joe's voice as he's driving. This is one of the funniest scenes. um, Joe's like, no, do you want to put something on? She says, what? He says, you don't have to listen to your thing. She pulls her headphones down. He says, you can play it on the stereo. She's, you wouldn't like it. It's like, I'm not that old. Put it on. So she does. And we hear fish heads, roly poly fish heads. We see her looking back out the passenger window. And then we see Joe, and he's like, what is this? What is this? He was prepared for anything but this. Fish heads, eat them up, yum. Every time it's amazing when a funny scene, a scene that makes you laugh, can still make you laugh like the thousandth time you've seen it. We see them now both through the front of the windshield, and Joe's just like looking straight forward, trying to understand like what's happening. And Haley's just looking out her passenger window. I mean, like he said, just play it. Ask a fish head. Oh my God. And then they cut. It's so good. Oh my God. I will forever associate this song with this show because I've seen it in no other context or heard it in no other context. So it's just a Halt and Catch Fire song as far as I'm concerned, but it's not really. Okay, so Cam's going to come into the kitchen as Donna is boxing some things up. Donna's like, how'd it go? Kim says, it's good. She's cooling off. Managed to take the cigarettes. Donna says, hey. So Cam's looking at all these like fancy heirloom glasses that Donna's boxing up. Donna says, oh, these are Gordon's grandmother's. I'm going to save them for the girls. I keep saying that. I don't know if they'll even care about any of this stuff. Kim says, they will. Donna says, yeah, or they'll just put them in a box and put the box in the attic. And then when they die, their kids will pull it out and say, I guess we should save this for our kids. Cam's like, that's dark. But it is a good point. I mean, it depends on what you value in life. Somebody else's, some person's collection is not necessarily of value or interest to anybody else. So, or anybody else in the family, just because you're inheriting it doesn't mean you want it. It's happened for me more than once where, my family has said like, oh, do you want this person's dolls or this china? They saved it for you. Or like, to split amongst the kids. And you're like, yeah, but I personally don't like stuff. I don't like having a lot of stuff. I like having experiences. I don't like having stuff. So somebody leaving stuff behind for me is like, wow, it feels like you're saddling me with this, like it's a nice gesture. And there's definitely a better place to put it. In fact, I had a conversation with a fan of Halt and Catch Fire, and they were talking about props that they would want, and some that they have. And they were like, what props would you want? And I said, none. And it didn't occur to me in that moment to say, the collection I'm making is the collection I'm doing, having these conversations with all of you, doing interviews with people from the show. And so, Cam is in the position, like they'll probably want it. And maybe she wishes she would have had family to leave things to her. But Donna's coming from the position of maybe people have left her stuff before and she's dealing with it. And here she is boxing it up. Kim starts to leave. Donna says, I finished the game. Kim says, what game? She comes back in. Donna says, your game, Pilgrim. Kim's surprised. Wow. She steps forward and she clarifies, you finished it? Donna says, yeah, finally you made it hard enough. I mean, it's the thing Alexa said, but it sounds totally different coming out of Donna's mouth. And Donna actually played the game to completion. Kim smiles. She says, yeah, I made it for people like you. We're going to get a close up of Donna's face. They're really seeing each other right now. She says, unfortunately, there aren't many people like you anymore. Donna smiles. She says, well, I like the way it ended. The pilgrim was a kid. Kim says, yeah, the pilgrim was a kid. Thank you for playing it. It means a lot. And Cam looks at Donna with a certain gratitude. What a beautiful detail. The fact that we got to see Donna finish the game meant a lot to me. And now the fact that Donna is being so generous as to tell Cam about this and that Cam can receive it. Cam puts her heart and soul into her games. And for everybody to and you kind of figure that this particular game, the way that it ends, an extra amount of Cam's heart and soul went into the game, so that Donna took the time to play it and finish it and knows what message Cam was communicating means a lot to Cam. But I also think it says a lot that Donna, as angry as she has been at Cam and not being able to communicate in a civil way with Cam, even in the middle of that, she was taking a lot of time to play Cameron's game, understand Cam, explore the world she had built. It shows an openness to Cam that Cam never saw from her in any of their interactions. And it's touching that Donna was willing to spend that much time doing this. It's my favorite detail of the show. And for Cam to be like, yeah, I was designing this game for people like you. It just turns out those people are just you. Like, you're it. Congrats. It's so much, it's just so beautiful. Donna sort of takes the next step. She says, hey, at the hospital with Boz, what I said, I didn't mean it. Cam says, no, Donna, please, like, I don't even remember what you said. For some reason, this gets weird. Donna says, oh, yeah. Kim says, I just mean, like, I've been in such a fog. I can't even remember my own name. Donna very awkwardly says, oh, yeah, no, me too. Yeah, I'm going to go get another box. She leaves, and it just feels like they were on such a good track, and it just ended awkwardly. And I'm not 100% sure why. This is an unfinished reconciliation. And fortunately, we are going to get the rest of the way in this episode, just not yet. Okay, so we're going to go to Haley and Joe at Goodwill. He's been looking through one bag after another. She's about ready to go at this point. She says, let's just go, as he tears through more bags. He says, oh, here, is this it? He holds up a sweater. She says, no. A Goodwill employee sees all this happening. He comes up, he says, yeah, you can't be doing that. Joe holds up another sweater. She says, no. Joe's working quickly because he's getting stopped. He says to the employee, look, we just dropped off these things an hour ago. We put something in here by mistake. The employee says, well, once you drop it off, it's our property. I have no way of verifying what's what or who's whatever and so on. It's the policy, Joe says, these are just t-shirts. And he's like, let's go. Joe says to the employee, okay, these clothes belong to a friend of mine and he's no longer with us. There's exactly one item of clothing that we're looking for. We dropped off 9 bags. There's only 8 here. That sweater's in the 9th bag and we just have to find it. The employee can't help. He says, yeah, I mean, all this stuff belonged to somebody, man. It's Goodwill. Joe points to a bag. He's like, that's it. That's our bag right there. The employee says, how could you know that? You can't know that. Joe's getting annoyed. He says, look at the bag. Look at these bags. Haley just sighs. Employee says, look, they look like trash bags, man. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Joe's like, that's our bag. It started with a good pitch and it's ending with, that's our bag. And the employee says, it's just company policy. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. Haley says, let's go. And Joe's going to back away. The employee calls out after him, it is what it is, man. They walk out, but that's not it. Haley's like, finally, we are going. And Joe says he's thinking and he's got a plan. He says, you've got your learner's permit, right? She's like, yeah. He says, pull the truck up, keep it running. She's confused. She says, okay, though. And he's going to go back inside. Oh, Joe. This is so funny what's happening here. Okay, so we'll get to that in a second, though. Cam is throwing out trash in a bin at the curb, and Katie pulls up in her car. And what a character this is. I'm so glad for the scenes we get with Katie in this episode. Cam says, hey, how are you doing? Katie says, super. Super. Yeah. They hug. Cam sees inside her car. There's a bunch of stuff. She says, are you going somewhere? Katie says, well, yeah, I'm moving. I've got some friends in Seattle. I'm going to give that a try. They say it's great. Cam says, yeah, I've heard it's a whole scene. which it was Seattle in the 90s, right? So good time to be in Seattle. Cam says, I didn't know you were going. Cam says, I told Joe and everybody a couple days ago. It was sort of a quick decision. I'm sorry I couldn't stick it out there for Joe's sake, but there's just too much Gordon there at Comet. So much emotion in her voice. She says, there's just too much of Gordon everywhere here. Cam and Katie are walking. Cam says, yeah, it doesn't sound that bad. Car full of stuff, clean slate. This is the type of thing that Cam would want. Katie says, I suppose I've pinballed around a bunch. When I landed at Comet, I thought maybe I was done with all that, but perhaps Seattle will stick. Do you know what's going to happen with it? Cam says, oh, Comet, you mean? I think Joe will carry it on, I guess. Katie says, I hope so. He really loves it. And with everything he's lost, it'd be a shame if that went too. It's weird. More than one person sort of introduces these things about Joe to Cam here. And it's every time she's like, oh, look over here, look over there. She doesn't know how to respond to this because I don't know if Cam and Joe have had this conversation about what's going to happen with Comet now that Gordon is gone. We know that earlier this season, Cam was encouraging Joe to take a buyout, not a buyout. That's somebody put up an offer for Comet, and she was like, maybe consider it, do it. She'd get to spend more time with Joe. And she was considering, even then, she was asking him to consider the offer. And now maybe that's what she wants him to do again. But Katie's like, yeah, it seems like the best thing for him to keep working at Comet. Cam can't really respond to that, but I don't know if that's what she wants. Katie is going to go inside. Now, it's so bananas. Haley pulls up her car at Goodwill. We're looking through the driver's side window through Haley, and we see the big garage door behind where all the donations are. And the focus switches to Joe running out from Goodwill with a bag of clothes in his arms. It's raining. He's like, go, go, go. Let's go. He's waving to Haley to get ready to drive. The employee runs out behind him. Come on, man. Joe's like, go, go, go. He gets into the car. Haley screeches away, tires squealing. She drives out of the driveway. She cuts over the curb. She's like bumping across the curb onto the road. Then we're going to see them driving on the road. We see a reflection over Haley's face, but we can hear her laughing. And we can see Joe laughing. This was so much adrenaline. This was bananas that they needed a getaway car for this. We see Haley and Joe now, both of them laughing. I was like, holy shit. They keep laughing. He opens the bag to get the loot, and there's a bunch of women's clothing in it, including a dress. It's like, possible that I got the wrong bag. Haley laughs. She's like, I don't think we can go back. She's cracking up. He's laughing. And then they just suddenly stop. And it feels weird to laugh. It's probably the first big laugh moment they've had since Gordon died. And now Joe looks sad and he looks down at the bag. It's like, it's this really funny moment that they're having together, and they're also not sure if it's okay to laugh. Like, is 10 days too soon? So Donna is looking at a picture of Katie and Gordon on the fridge, the same one she looked at earlier. She's going to take it down because Katie is in front of her. She says, I thought you might want to have this. So she gives it to Katie. Katie looks at it, and it's such a bittersweet thing to have in her hand. She says, yeah, we had a lot of fun. Gordon was up for anything. I mean, I don't have to tell you. Donna chuckles. She says, yeah, well, he was crazy about you. It's so generous. They both pause because what do you say? Katie says, it was a beautiful service, by the way. Donna says, yeah, I thought so too. She says, hey, if there's anything you'd like to have, feel free to take it. Katie says, yeah, thanks. I really like his decorating style, though. If they laugh, she says, I never told him that. I mean, what, like, were you a vaquero in a past life or something? They're both laughing. Donna says, yeah, I think he had a decorator do it. Maybe somebody with a fetish for Navajo blankets. Katie says, you know what picture I love? there's this great one of the two of you, Donna's surprised. You're young, and I don't know how old, but you're both holding beers, probably Heislers. And Gordon's got these wild sideburns. Donna says, yeah, I know it. He says, you both look like, oh man, like lookout world. Donna squints a little. He says, as soon as we got together, I got very, that's mine. I want him all to myself. I want all the Gordon there is. But you already had so much of him. You had hell-raising sideburns, Gordon, and who knows what else. And it made me jealous. Donna wants to reassure her. She doesn't even really know what to say. Katie's like, I don't know what I'm saying. Goddamn, Gordon, what the hell? She's so sad. Katie says, look, I'm going to get out of your hair. Thank you. She starts to leave, and Donna stops her. She says, Joni's up in her room if you want to say hi, but just proceed with caution. Katie says, thanks. I'll be careful. And she's going to leave. Donna breathes deeply and closes her eyes. It's such a beautiful conversation. I've been waiting for this moment where we could get Katie and Donna together in a scene. And in another universe, this could be a really competitive dynamic. And it's so generous between the two of them, and so supportive and so transparent and honest. They've both looked at pictures of the other with Gordon thinking, you had the best of Gordon. I think empirically we can say that Katie probably had the best of Gordon from what we've seen. But, they both have looked at it and been like, man, you got some great Gordon. And, and to be able to give that to the other one and say, wow, look what you had. And then to know that Katie had this whole story in her head about how amazing Donna and Gordon's life was together when he had these sideburns. And we just opened this episode seeing sideburn Gordon. And that was not Gordon in his best days. Gordon was, was human and flawed. And if anything, he worked out a lot of those kinks after he found out he was sick. And Katie really got like the version of him that was actually the most adventurous in a way. But sideburns Gordon didn't know how to deal with responsibility. Sideburns Gordon was kind of afraid, and and we're seeing sideburns Gordon in this episode, and it doesn't look like a thing to be envious of. And yet she has this picture, and it's, I think, asking Donna to reappraise the situation too. Like Donna's like, wow, somebody thinks that's awesome. Like that this couple that she's seeing a picture of was so amazing. And here's Donna, who got divorced from that man. So obviously she didn't think it was amazing. But it's just so interesting to see, like, they're both looking at it from a totally different lens and willing to give each other that, like, I think like you two look great together. It's so pretty and so sad. And what do you do if you're Katie here? Because like everybody else who's coming over this house has known Gordon forever, it feels like. And Katie is the newest one, and she doesn't know every single person who's going to be at this house. So Katie is like the newest person to love Gordon, and she's the one who found him in this house. And it's just got to be weird. I'm going to miss Katie though. Okay, so Cam is wrapping up some more stuff in the living room. She says, Joe's been gone for a while, huh? Donna's there. She says, yeah, maybe they stopped to get something to eat. And that's good because, Haley needs to get out of here for a bit. Joe's been so great with her. There's a pause, no response to that. Donna says, did you want the weird priest statues? Or Cam says, you know what? I've already got so many of those at home. Donna says, I always forget how good Joe is with the girls. Just really lights them up. Cam doesn't address that. She, once again, because we're getting right to the heart of a core problem between them, and she knows it. And Cam instead is like, yeah, I need more tape. I'm going to get more tape. Like every time somebody's bringing something serious up, she's like, yeah, let me know the stickers. Like it's so much easier than addressing real stuff, her stuff in this situation. Cam walks out of the room and into another room. Which one is the living room? Okay, you've heard that enough from me. Hopefully, we can find some answers. She sees Katie in this room just frozen. Katie is sort of crying and she's looking at a spot on the floor. Cam's like, sorry, are you okay? He says, this is where I found him. And Cam looks at this spot now, upset. Katie says, I'm going to go. Katie leaves. She walks briskly outside. She's going, away from Gordon's house. She's crying. She gets into the car. It's raining. She cries as she turns on the car. Joe and Haley pull up back from Goodwill. Katie sees them. Haley gets out of the car. She looks at Katie through the windshield. She waves at Katie. Katie waves back, but Katie can't. She can't talk with people more. She has to go. She pulls away, and Haley watches her go. So much loss for Haley here. She's lost her dad. She's lost Katie. These are two really important figures in her life. And even more so than for Joni, like, because Katie is important to Haley and Katie works with Haley, but not with Joni. So there's a stronger connection there. So just another person leaving for Haley. Another person who accepted Haley as she is. Joe is still sitting in the car looking at the dress that isn't Gordon's sweater. And we're going to have to see what he's thinking here. But first, Haley's going to knock on Joni's door. She's not sure if she's allowed in, so she opens it and closes it. Joni's like, come in. Haley comes in. She says, Boz showed up. He brought food. Mom wanted to see if he needed any help. Joni hasn't packed anything up. She's like, I just don't really want any of this stuff. Maybe just my CDs and pictures. Haley looks at Joni. Joni's like, what? Haley shrugs. Joni says, what? Haley says, why didn't you apply to college? Joni says, well, I wasn't going to get into any of them. And it makes me so sad for Joni. Like, look, college may or may not be the thing she wants to do. It may or may not be the thing that makes most sense for her. But is she capable of getting into college and going to college? I think so. And I think it's sad for her that she is saying she thinks she wouldn't even get in, and that's why she didn't apply. It feels like there's something at the root of that that's sort of the same as Gordon holding on to the electric meat carver. Haley says, well, what are you going to do? Joni says, I don't know. I'll figure it out. She puts a red sticker on Haley. She says, I'm donating you. Haley says, I'd like to see you try. She puts a red sticker on Joni. Joni says, at least they have you. Exactly what they want in every way. Haley pauses. She says, not every way. Haley, that kind of makes Joni sad. So Joni is going to reach out. She's going to be sisterly here. And she just wraps Haley up in a hug. She says, come here, dummy. Haley says, you're not going to go away too, are you? Joni might. She doesn't answer. She doesn't want to answer this because we've got two people in 2 episodes who are important to Haley who have left. Boz is in the house. He's heating up chili on the stove top, and he takes a taste. It's okay. He sees Joe staring into the distance, just dazed. And Boz is like, did you ever have my chili, Joe? Joe says, oh, I don't know. Boz gestures with the spoon. Joe comes in. He says, it's an old Bosworth family recipe, handed down. He smells the spoon. He says, the secret's in the cinnamon. You see, what you do is you take the cinnamon, you put it in the cupboard, and you keep it away from your chili because it has no damn business being there in the first place. Joe walks past him. It doesn't smile. It's a smiling kind of thing, but Joe's not there. Boz knows he's hurting. And Boz says, well, I remember I didn't even really notice Gordon until he started working on the giant with y'all. I used to call him Soup Stain because he always had it. Joe says, I'm not ready to do that. He just stops him. It's polite, but he's like, I can't. Boz gets it. Boz's heart is kind of bleeding for Joe here. This scene just crushes me. Boz puts a bunch of chili in a paper bowl. and he's going to bring it to Joe, who's now sitting in the dining room by himself. Boz says, do me a favor and taste this real quick. Joe's sitting at the table. He says, I'm not hungry. Boz says, I don't care if you're hungry. I just want to make sure it's not too hot for the girls. They've been eating crap all week. I want to make sure they get a good meal. Joe's not moving, but Boz puts the chili in front of him. He says, just check the damn spice level on that if you could. I want to make sure everyone's going to eat it. Joe takes a bite. He nods. He says, it's good. Boz says, not too spicy. Joe says, no, it's really good. Boz says, good. And he walks away, leaving the chili on the table. And he turns at the doorway and watches as Joe takes another bite. Joe's eating more chili. This is such a beautiful scene. A bunch of things I want to say about this. First of all, look, I'm not going to try to compare and make them these characters compete about who's grieving the most. When I think about this episode, I think, wow, I feel so bad for Joe. And then I think, well, I feel bad for all the characters. And I think, like, wow, all of them, it's so hard for all of them. And then I come back to Joe. I keep coming back to Joe. It's so heavy for Joe. It feels heavier somehow for him, for me, than for anybody else. And I don't know if it feels like that to everybody who's watching this. I don't know if everybody who's watching has a different character that they feel most connected to their grief. There's not like a particular reason why I should feel more connected to Joe's grief, because if you go back to the beginning of this podcast, not this episode, but season 1, you will find that I'm critical of Joe. Joe reminded me of a person that was a little Joe-like in my life, who wasn't in my life anymore and still isn't. And just seeing Joe on screen, I was like, whoa, I can't. And Joe has changed so much, and I really feel invested in his grief here. And I mean, he's just come such a long way. But also, so has the relationship between Joe and Boz. Go back to season 1, and they are completely at odds. Joe weasels his way into Cardiff Electric through Boz. Boz hires him, not really having all the facts. And Joe instantly enacts the plan to reverse engineer the IBM BIOS with Gordon, which is going to get the whole company in trouble, and Boz. So, like, Boz has good reason to be angry at Joe from the very beginning. They have different styles. I mean, they're just not a loving team. And to see Boz come here and to see Joe hurting so much, and to know that one thing Boz can do to help is to make sure Joe gets some food, but Joe's not going to eat because he's so depressed. And Boz knowing that the only way you can get this man, this version of Joe, to eat is to tell him that it's him. It can be Joe's way of taking care of the girls. Like, this isn't about you eating chili. This is about you making sure that chili is okay for the girls and the people that you love that are here. For Boz to know that that's a thing that's actually going to get Joe to do it. And just for that to be the way that Boz can actually nurture Joe, it's just so beautiful. I'm just so moved by this. I can't. And one other thing that I want to comment about with Boz, I wonder what it feels like for Boz to be in this house right now. Because first of all, Boz recently had a scary health experience that he came through. He's a lot older than the rest of these folks. He probably thought he was going to be the first to go. And then he gets a call and Gordon is dead. That's weird enough. And I imagine in the last 10 days, it has come out that every single other person who's in this house right now has known that Gordon has been sick for years. And I don't think Boz knew. We've never seen a scene where Boz was told. I imagine that he's the only one not in the loop on this, him and Diane together. And so when Boz gets a call, when Diane picks up the phone, brings the phone to Boz, and Boz finds out that Gordon is dead, I don't think there was any setup for this for him whatsoever. But there was for every other person in his circle. And that's got to feel weird. You know, he's here and he's loving and he's good natured and he's feeding everybody. He's making sure his people are okay. And I love that about Boz. And they also all kept him in the dark. I don't know if it was an intention. I mean, it must have been somewhat intentional, right? I mean, think about it. Like the number of hints, like Gordon had a driver, not because he was rich and famous, but because Gordon, health wise, probably shouldn't be driving anymore. There's just all this stuff that Boz might now piece together in a different way and may realize, like, wow, I was way out of the loop with these people. It kind of makes me sad for Boz, but I just, what a beautiful moment between him and Joe here. Boz goes back to the kitchen. Donna comes in. He says the food's going to be ready in a minute if you want to gather the troops. Donna says, yeah, do you know where Cameron is? He doesn't, so she's going to go out and look for Cam. He sighs. He's going to keep stirring the chili, making sure everything's ready for the folks when they're ready to eat. Cam is sitting outside. Once again, I'm not sure where they are in this house. She's outside. We're looking at it. We see a neighbor's roof. They're sitting in an area where there are Christmas lights. Is it maybe like an upper balcony or something? Donna joins her. Cam says, hey, I just needed a minute. Donna says, yeah, Boz bought some food, so we're going to eat soon if you want to join. Cam's crying. She says, God, this is too much. I didn't know it was going to be this hard here. Sorry, I don't mean to make this about me. You know, she went on her own to deal with this. Donna says, please make it about you. I feel like everybody's handling me. Cam says, nobody knows how to act. Donna says, well, I really love it when people say, how are you doing? Cam says, I'm pretty sure I asked you that. Donna says, yeah, of course you did, because what else are you going to say? And then how do you answer? Cam shrugs. She says, hanging in there. Donna says, yeah, that's right, because to answer honestly, you'd have to talk incessantly for days. And who wants to listen to that, right? So, how are you doing? Kim smiles and she says through like these laugh tears, hanging in there. Donna really cares about this. And, you know, Cam is going to just go all in to just venting to Donna. She says, I lost a really good friend and I don't have that many of those to spare. I know, like, poor me, but I've always had a bit of trouble making those sorts of connections. She's just fully crying now. There's just not a lot of people in my life. Donna says, me neither. Kim says, and I can't even talk to Joe. For as much as, you know, Katie earlier and Donna earlier said a thing that about Joe and the future, Cam's now just putting it out there. She says, I can't even talk to Joe. Donna says, why not? Kim says, we're at different places in our life. This has brought up a lot of stuff for him. Donna says, like what? Kim says, he wants kids. Pause. This did not bring it up for them. At the very least, this came up in 402 for the first time on that long phone call where Joe was like, yeah, I think I would be a better dad than my dad. I would do it. And Cam's like, yeah, I wouldn't. Thought maybe with Tom and then, yeah, decided against it. This has been coming up. This has been an issue that they've had. They've just been not addressing it head on. And now this thing happens with Gordon, and they might not be able to brush it under the rug anymore. They might not be able to make these little sideways comments to each other and just shrug them off and pretend they're not a thing. You know, Cam saying this has brought up a lot of stuff for him. Maybe it is bringing up a lot of stuff for Joe, but I don't think it's brand new stuff. I think it's stuff that's been there. I think this has been a core issue that a lot of us have been holding our breath about for several episodes now. But yeah, he wants kids. Donna's surprised. She says, wow, I mean, if you want that, I think you'd be great. Cam says, no, I don't. I mean, I never have, and I don't see that changing. Donna says, well, then don't. It's really hard, and you have to really want to do it to do even a halfway decent job. And even then, Cam's questioning it. She says, so you always wanted it? Donna says, I mean, I didn't plan on getting pregnant right out of school, but yeah, I always wanted it. And there's nothing wrong with not feeling that way. Kim says, thank you. I love that that's written into this script. I love that that's part of an episode that so many people loved and see and rewatch and talk about, because it seems like a lot of people in real life have judgment on other people, whether they do want kids, whether they don't want kids, whether they have them or don't have them, how they're parenting their kids. Like, people have a lot of judgments to impose on other people's stuff in this regard. And for Donna and Cam to have the opposite interests in this area, and for both of them to leave plenty of space for the other one to pursue their lives here. Like, Donna's got kids, that's fine. Cam doesn't want kids, that's fine. And, I think there's a generosity in that. And we often don't show that generosity to each other in real life. Donna's going to walk closer to Cam. She says, if you change your mind, though, I've got a 17-year-old I'm looking to unload. Uh-oh, Joni would like that too. Cam laughs, whatever. Donna sits down next to Cam, and Donna looks up and starts crying. She says, I miss him. Cam nods. She says, so do I. Donna says, and I miss you too. Cam says, I'm here. Donna's relieved to hear that. She shakes her head. She says, I spent so much time telling him everything he did wrong. She says it in this really regretful way, and Cam just says, he did a ton wrong. And they both cry, and they both laugh. And it's just this, what a funny little line to add in there. I mean, look, this is a long scene. We get a lot of minutes here with Cam and Donna exploring this. And I feel like everything that felt weird about the way they ended the last conversation, I feel a lot of reconciliation here. I think they said what they needed to say. They put the things on the table. No, they're not rehashing what happened at Mutiny. But I think at the very core of it, they have now put out there by the end of this episode, like, I care about you. I'm invested in you. And both have said that. It's just so beautiful to be there in support of each other like this. I'm really glad they got this more conversation after the conversation about Donna playing Cam's game. And then Cam being able to be really, really honest with Donna about her personal stuff. We are going to see Boz walking through the house to get to the dining room. Joe is still sitting there, but his bowl of chili is empty now. He ate the whole thing because the way Boz did it. Joe's hands are folded, sort of in a prayer at the table. Boz opens a bottle of wine. Cam comes in, says hi to Boz. Something smells good. He says, sure, it's a family recipe. Donna and Cam are going to sit at the table. Donna says, well, if anybody wants capers in their chili, there's about 14 jars of it in the fridge. Boz is like, how dare you? My father leap out of his grave. He gives wine to Cam. He says, I saw a recipe the other day called for pineapple and chili. What? Donna just sort of shrugs and she spoons out some chili. He says, can you believe that? Pineapple what the hell is the country coming to? Cam and Donna both smile. Donna is going to decline wine. I'm noticing these things now. This is the moment she's not drinking any wine. Cam says, so what happens next with all this stuff? Donna says, well, there's a company that takes care of the sale of the furniture and things. And the girls are going to be laughing as they come into the room. Donna's like, what's so funny? Haley says, inside joke, you wouldn't get it. They're laughing. Donna's glad that they're laughing. She wants her kids to be okay. Joe, with just this cloud of depression over him, says, Haley. She says, mm-hmm. Joe looks devastated and like he's feeling so responsible. He says, I'm sorry I couldn't get your dad's sweater back. Haley's fine with it. She says, that's okay. Not a thing. Joni and Donna are watching this exchange. Donna just sort of touches Joni's arm. Haley is going to go get something from the kitchen. Joe has been forgiven. This isn't a thing for her. But we keep zooming in on him for a bunch of this scene. Cam next to him can basically feel the pain emanating off of him. You know, she wants to find a way to help. It's just how. Joni says, do you remember when dad tried to convince us that he won a hot dog eating contest in Kalamazoo? And I was like, wait, that wasn't true. Donna says, oh, honey, no. I was like, well, why would he make that up? We're all the way zoomed in on Joe. We've been zooming in on him this whole time. Donna says, I don't know. I think he thought it was funny. Haley and Joni are laughing now. Boz chuckles. He's like, that's hilarious. And he says, Dad was such a weirdo. She's getting food. Joe smiles at the story now. Okay, there's at least a little smile here from Joe. We're up really close to his face. Haley says, hey, Joe, can you pass the salt? Something Joe can do. I'm on it. Joe says, yep, he passes the salt. And they all start eating. And Donna says to Jody, how's your room looking, sweetheart? Jody says, that's a mess. We fade out a bit on them. We pull back the camera and it starts to pan right through the dark wall into the next room where we see an empty desk and an empty chair where Gordon used to sit. We're going to close this out by going back to the 70s. Donna is on the phone holding Joni. Gordon's been out all night. She's afraid. She says, oh God, no, Mom, for God's sake, don't fly back here for this. He'll be back soon. I never should have told you. It's not a big deal. He's just under stress. It's fine. He'll be back soon. Baby Joni is fidgeting. She's like, I know, he'll be back soon. It's fine. Meanwhile, we see what Gordon's up to. He is sitting in his car at this quarry or the cliff that Donna had been telling Joni about in her story from the previous episode. Where it was a story that she told Joni about Donna and Gordon sort of daring each other to do a brave thing, and Gordon didn't do it, and Donna did. And she says, like, I cartwheeled right off the edge. And then I was like, she'd kill herself. When I see this cliff, I don't know how you survive cartwheeling off the edge of this. You need to get some distance. But anyway, so that was her memory. But that wasn't actually the end of the situation. So we are seeing that on this day, Gordon drove back to that quarry. He takes off his glasses and his shirt and his pants and his socks, and he runs and he dives into the water. Donna never saw it, but he did take the leap. She had to take the leap first in her life, in their life, and he eventually followed. And perhaps that's the way the beginning of their relationship went consistently. The camera is sort of half under, half over the water. He's gone for a moment. We can't see him. We see sort of fog, smoke over the water. And Gordon bursts to the surface. He comes up. He's invigorated. Woo! He's feeling alive now, just as we know he's really not. And then the camera sees him from a great distance. Gordon then comes home. He very gently closes the door. He's not making whirring noises anymore with the tool from the kitchen. He's gently closing the door. He takes off his glasses. He hears Donna humming to Joni. And he goes to the room that they're in. Little baby Joni waves at him, and Gordon's standing in the doorway. Donna sees him. She puts baby Joni down. She goes and hugs him. She says, don't you ever do that to me again, okay? He says, I won't. They hug, and the lights flare. The lights flare like they've been flaring for Gordon to cue us into his death. And this is what the scene was. It asks you to think about the fact that in the last episode, as his life was ending, he saw Donna and his family, and he went back in time with them to this moment where Donna's humming to her child. And it's this sweet moment of family. But now we see this episode, and we see that maybe that was actually a signal of his worst moment as a dad, like his worst moment as a husband, or one of them. How was he perceiving this at the end of his life? Was it, isn't my family beautiful? Or is it, I'm the worst? This was my biggest regret or mistake. It's just so really asks you to look at it all in a different way again. And that is this episode. So just so beautiful. Before we get into feedback, because I know we've got a ton of feedback for this one, there's a couple songs, music from this episode. First of all, we've got So Far Away by Dire Straits from 1985. This is where everybody's cleaning out the house. And then we've got Fish Heads by Barnes and Barnes from 1978. They are a comedy rock duo. And that, of course, is with Haley and Joe in the car on their way to Goodwill. Now, in terms of favorite quotes, you're going to see a theme here for most of the honorable mentions, for all of the honorable mentions. I was trying to also pick a favorite one that wasn't too spoilery. So that was a consideration. But honorable mentions wise, I'm going to start with one from Cam. I don't know if reason's going to be that helpful to you in this situation. Another one from Cam. I lost a really good friend, and I don't have that many of those to spare. Got a combo from Donna and Cam. Donna saying, I spent so much time telling him everything he did wrong. Cam saying, he did a ton wrong. And then another Donna Cam combo. Donna saying, I miss you too. And Cam saying, I'm here. But my favorite quote from this episode is from Katie saying, you had hell-raising sideburns, Gordon, and who knows what else. Yeah, I mean, hell-raising is a way to describe it, right? Like sometimes that does not always a good thing, right? I think if I really think about Gordon's life, I think Katie got a good version of Gordon, possibly the better one. I think he evolved, and I loved their relationship with each other. I think they were both good for each other. I think they communicated well with each other. Yeah, such a shame. Let's get into some feedback, shall we? There's so many comments that I've been saving from way back when that I was just looking forward to the moment that I could bring them in. And this feels like an episode where I can do that with a lot of them. So we're going to start with some feedback from Jennifer Roner from 103. Then there is Boz and Joe's butting heads about just about everything. It sheds light into the different worlds the two of them are coming from. Boz being the old school corporate guy and Joe the young one who wants to shake up everything. It also sets up a conflict that plays out in the next couple of episodes, as we see in episode 4. And oh my God, when Boz orders the wine for Joe when the others are drinking bourbon, such a diss, and in front of the big boss too. Yeah, this I brought this comment in because it's just that reminder of where Boz and Joe started. It was not good between them for a long time. So to get to a place where you can have this chilly moment with Boz and Joe just feels so much sweeter. For the people who say like, you could do without season 1, I think we're finding in this rewatch, you absolutely cannot. Like you miss so much important stuff. And season 4 can't feel as rich with meaning if you didn't start from the beginning. So, this just comment from Jennifer Roner is one of the reasons why. Now, a few different people wanted to sort of share their feelings about the last episode and just had like sort of an array of thoughts. And I wanted to go through those just to share other people's perspectives on such a beautiful episode of Gordon's death. So at Mingo Hagen says, a bit of rambling, just writing down my thoughts. This episode is why this series means so much to me. I was hooked from episode 1 because of my hobby and profession, but this episode took it to a whole new level. The first time I saw this episode, it kicked me in the stomach hard. Somehow I really did not see it coming. In 2021, my mother passed away quite suddenly, and Halt and Catch Fire has become my emotional support series for the first few years, and I've rewatched the series 2 times since. I identify with many characters, but for season 4, it's been with Haley 100%, whereas the previous seasons, it was mostly Gordon and Cam. I was about Haley's portrayed age at the early internet time, and it was then when I was building my first web projects like her. This is one of the strong connections I have with this show, is that I find all sorts of parallels to my own life at different stages, but totally out of sync. Like now that I'm older and have more responsibility in my company, I perhaps relate more to Boz. Then there's everything that goes on in these episodes, which makes it highly personal. The show that keeps on giving. That's so beautiful. And I want to say thank you, Mingo, for sharing something so personal to you. And I've noticed that in that thread and in the comments about this episode, people have been sharing some of the personal loss that they've experienced that makes them connect and feel this episode even more. So just so beautiful. Thank you all for being on this journey with me and for getting close enough and opening up enough that you could have this experience and share your experiences in response. Some thoughts from @CamHousegF, a couple different thoughts from 407. Oh, Gordon, what a guy. I don't think I've ever been more moved by a character death before. When I started watching this show, I didn't really pay much attention to Gordon, but as the show progressed, I started to grow very fond of the characters, including him. Losing Gordon felt like losing a close friend. I remember being slightly confused when Donna walked in on Gordon's house, but when he started to see younger Joni and Haley, everything clicked and I started crying. The scene is heartbreakingly beautiful, one of the best depictions of death I've ever seen. I think a bunch of us have had this experience of somewhere kind of early in the sequence of Gordon's death, we realize what's happening. And it's so interesting because even on a first watch, I think if you're having that reaction to it, you can almost at the same time, it's like you're grieving it in real time and simultaneously thinking, wow, this is beautiful. I had that reaction, and it really feels like I'm not alone in that from the comments that I'm reading about it. It seems like @CamHousegF had that same experience. Now, for some more thoughts on this episode, God, what an episode. Simply masterful. So many great scenes. Cam being a witness at Boz and Diane's wedding. Her relationship with Boz is very heartwarming. And after what happened in 405, it's great to see them reconnecting. Joe talking about settling down while Cam is working in her game. A great juxtaposition that shows how this couple is not on the same page. This scene made me think that they were going to break up at some point. Donna finishing Pilgrim. I don't think I need to say what I think about this scene. You described it perfectly. So many layers. Donna finally finding her way back to Cam and her being the only person able to complete Pilgrim. It's like Cam created the game just for her. I know that the game could symbolize, I knew that the game could symbolize Cam and her mom, but I never considered that the mom could also represent Donna. Interesting. Joe and Gordon's final scene together. At this point of the episode, I was already feeling that something bad was about to happen. The pacing of the episode felt different, especially when seeing Joe and Gordon spend almost the whole day at the office. When Gordon left, my suspicions were almost confirmed. I get emotional just remembering Joe smiling at Gordon. Donna and Joe arguing, Lee Pace and Carrie Bechet were amazing. I can feel the pain in Donna's voice when she explodes at Joe. I like how they reconnect after. Joe's words, "It hurts to be thought of in that way," resonate deeply. The final scenes show everyone reacting to the tragic news. So greatly done. I was a sobbing mess at this point. I want to go back. I'm trying not to interject too much feedback to the ones where we're really just like saying our favorite moments from the last episode, because I want people to be able to have that sort of uninterrupted. But I did just want to reflect on sort of that final conversation between Joe and Gordon. I wondered, because Joe feels such a heavy burden of responsibility to the family, to the kids in this episode. And I wonder if there was ever a conversation between Joe and Gordon that we didn't see, where Gordon was like, if something happens to me, here's what I want you to do. Because we've seen this coming for a long time. He was sick for a long time. Joe knew about it for a while, and he was getting closer to the family. And I just wonder to what extent Gordon communicated his wishes or any responsibilities to Joe. Because it really does feel like Joe is feeling the duties that he needs to fulfill to them. He wants this family. He wants these girls to be okay. So I think, that's something that I wonder. I wonder how much of that they got to say before it all. Also, I keep thinking it just makes me sad for Gordon that like at the end of his life, he knew a secret about Haley and never was able to tell her that. But he also didn't get a chance to really impress upon Jo, like, he empowered Jo in the moment to talk to Haley, to like bring her back into the fold. And I think Jo has enough information that if Haley is ever coming out of the closet and wants to feel supported, I think Jo has enough information to say, you know what, your dad knew when he loves you. He loved you. But if Gordon knew that he was going to pass away today, I wonder if he would have passed along any message to Jo for Haley, or for Joni for that matter. And he just didn't get a chance to do that. It's a thing left undone. We've got some thoughts from Sergio on the last episode. Arguably the best episode of the series thus far, just one great scene after another. Cam finally accepting her daughter role was a scene I was waiting for since their last fight in Texas over Boz not being her real dad. Pilgrim being a story about a little girl finding her way home to her mom was a great twist. Really curious as to who came up with the game's story and design. Is that info available? So this is a good question. I have not specifically asked this. I know that the creation of the game happened in post. I imagine that the details of the game were written into the script, and that the visuals of it and the look of it was done in post. So, Lisa Albert wrote 407, I believe. But the writer's room tended to work out the big details together, is what I'm gathering. So that probably, especially for something like this, which is more like post-production was going to have to create the look of it all. That's probably the team up that we had there. The pain in Donna's voice when she lashes out at Jo about ending up with Cam and Gordon was gut-wrenching. Years of agony over losing her best friend finally boiling over. I couldn't help but feel bad for Donna and how isolated and lonely she had become. And finally, the scene that made me sob like a baby the first time I experienced it. I've never seen death captured in such a beautiful way. I doubt I ever will again. The way the lens flare symbolized Gordon's passing from this world to the next was the chef's kiss, as the kids like to say. When Gordon walks in on Donna at his house, I was confused. Wasn't she just talking to Jo? Then he followed her into the 80s and I realized what was happening. When he stood there watching Donna sing Baby Mine to Joni, I broke down. I love shows like Mad Men and The Sopranos, but I don't feel like those characters are my friends. Those aren't worlds I want to live in. Halt and Catch Fire is a comfort show, a security blanket. Losing Gordon felt like losing a friend. I'm looking forward to my next rewatch in a couple months where I get to resurrect my friend and visit him at his boring cubicle at Cardiff Electric. Oh. Yeah. Oh. It's so lovely how we're all experiencing this. Now, look, present hour 24 is a little bit you're not caught up with us where we are right now. And that is okay. Present Hour 24 most recently got to 401, and I wanted to honor Present Hour 24's commitment to doing this, even if you're a little bit behind. And so I brought in a comment that I did want to address in this episode, because I want to make sure that you're featured in one of the best episodes of the show. From 401, the quote, "Am I cruel? Of course not." When I first heard that, I thought Cam said, "Am I cool?" Because when she talked to Joni and Haley, they looked at Cam in different ways. Cam is really having an identity crisis in this episode, and her sleeping on the couch is a really big flashback. I think this sequence with the music playing and the editing makes this episode stand out as a really pivotal one. So in this episode, Gordon lets her crash on her couch. And once again, these two are such good friends. Cam has been MIA at this point for a while, and Jo is furious about it. Donna is furious with Cam. Boz is furious with Cam. Gordon should be furious with Cam. But he says, "No, I'm making space for you." And that's the kind of friend she just lost in this episode. And it made me think, Present Hour 24, when you wrote that, it made me think about all the places that Cam has crashed since the start of the series. Because if we go back, in season 1, she didn't have a place to stay at all, I don't think. She had a duffel bag of her laundry bag of her stuff that she carried around with her. She brought it to the office. She was sleeping in the office. Remember, Boz was like, you can work here, but you can't live here. So that's where she started. And then, towards the end of season 1, she starts crashing at what's going to be the Mutiny House. I don't know if she was officially living there or if Yo-Yo was living there and she was crashing there. And then Mutiny, she ends up living and working in that house. And then we get to, season 3, she's staying at the Clark house for longer than anybody thought she probably was. And then she gets a house for a little stretch there with Tom, and then they move to Tokyo. So she's had this situation of sort of crashing at people's places, and basically, like, she was crashing at Joe's in this season until she gets her Airstream. So it's I feel like you can really chart Cam's character through the places she's lived. Okay, a bunch of different comments from Frack and Toaster Lava. From first of all, from 201. I don't think it's necessary to know exactly what was in the letters Joe sent to Gordon and Cameron because I feel I can have a good guess. And it's an apology and some variation of what he was telling Sarah's friends. He made mistakes. He's sorry. He's unhappy with himself. He's trying to be a better person. He wants to fix things. I brought this in because it feels really relevant to this episode. We at the beginning, at the end of season 1, Joe sort of burns it all to the ground, and then somewhere between those seasons, season 1 and season 2, he sends letters to at least Gordon and Cameron, but we don't get to see them. But Joe shows up on their doorsteps, not their doorsteps, but in the next conversations he has with them, he's like, "Did you get my letter? Did you get my letter?" And it makes you think, like, what was in those letters? And on the one hand, kind of want to know what was in the letters, but on the other hand, can guess. Is that something that you spend time looking at? Maybe not. And so it's sort of the same thing with this. Joe had a eulogy for Gordon. I'm sure it was beautiful. I'm sure it was touching. I'm sure it would make us cry. And that's not a speech that this show needed us to see. We get the idea. I think seeing this Joe, the one that's trying to figure out how to support the people around him and these kids that Gordon left behind. I think that's interesting. Again, this is a show that chooses not to show us weddings, funerals, major events, ceremonies, because they're like, how much ceremony do we need? We want to know what's happening with the characters and their relationships. And so dropping in on this day felt more important to the writers than the funeral. And that's something that we missed because of that. But I think it was the right choice. Okay, some thoughts from 402, the long phone call episode. The conversation Joe and Cam had about children and about their respective troubled relationships with their parents was incredibly important for the characters and important and relatable to me. He didn't want to have children because he didn't want to make a child feel the way his father made him feel. I think this is partially behind Cam's reason for not wanting children too, except she has not changed her mind to I can be a good parent after all, as Joe has. And it's also a part of her general visceral rejection of all the elements of the strict gender role her mother had imposed on her. Her mother clearly has quite stereotypical ideas about what a woman should be: beautiful, pleasant, agreeable, and probably also a wife and mother. I can only imagine how much Cam's mom has struggled to fit into that, since she seems to have mental health issues, probably depression, and has not been a great mother to Cam. She probably never processed her own grief over her first husband's death either, probably did not have the emotional tools for it. And she was scared that crying and showing grief would make her ugly and disagreeable and unwanted, probably something she had been raised to think. While they were talking about wanting or not wanting to have children, the score was the track called Cam and Joe on the soundtrack. This is not the last time we hear it this season. Even in this episode, which is so romantic and so positive about their relationship, we get an alarm bell. You can see the panic on Cam's face when she asks Joe if he wants children. What if he really does? And this becomes a problem for their relationship. Ooh, fast forward to 408. Here we are, and it is not an ideal situation for them. That alarm bell has been ringing for a little while. I also wanted to check in with you, Frack and Toaster Lava, because I know that you had only done, I think, one rewatch of season 4 before. So now as we're going back through it, I'm curious if what you've learned about Cam's mom since this, and specifically what we learned in this episode, if that is something that you want to sort of reintegrate that or integrate that in some way into your assessment of Cam's mom. So, like the fact that, yeah, so Cam's mom wanted Cam to be perfect. And that was right after her dad died. And then somewhere along the way, her mom fell to substance abuse, it sounds like, and started to not show up for Cam's important moments. And so, how does that impact how we look at Cam, her mom, and where it all fell apart? I think I've been sort of waiting, kicking the can down the road to get the little bit of dialogue that we got today about Cam's mom. And, how much does that change things for you? Some thoughts from 406. I feel it's very much a Donna episode. It may even be the Donna episode. It's the climax of her season 4 arc as she reaches her lowest points and finally breaking down because she's not really able to be as heartless and ruthless as she thought she could. It's interesting that she started the episode manipulating a co-founder into leaving their project, Cecil. Echoes of what she did to Cam, leading to the demise of Mutiny, and what Cam did in turn to her. And all of it was because she couldn't make herself go and talk to Cameron. Cameron, on the other hand, is clearly over the animosity she had for Donna. It's water under the bridge now. Donna tells Bobby, Mutiny was the most fun she ever had, echoing Cameron's words to her from 309. Working with you was the most fun I've ever had. You're really good at spotting those echo dialogue lines. What was Donna thinking about while driving and so emotionally singing along to We Belong? Was she, after being reminded of Bobby, thinking about the days of Mutiny and working with Cam, in spite of the fact that it wasn't always happy and smooth, as you pointed out? Was she thinking of her marriage with Gordon, which was also far from happy and smooth? She gets a really meaningful scene with him not long after. Maybe even it was about whether her friendship or working relationship with Diane was now on the rocks. Was she thinking of both and more, of all the relationships with people close to her that she has almost lost, feeling adrift and disconnected from everyone? The scene with Gordon in the car is not just a cool role reversal bookend to the pilot. It's probably the most beautiful scene Donna and Gordon have ever had together and a moment of deepest connection. It's ironic that they are able to connect with each other so much better now that they're divorced. Maybe it's because they're now free of the pressures of maintaining a marriage, of feeling that they had to play a certain role. Yeah, I mean, what an episode that was for Donna. Absolutely. And this question about who was she really thinking about when she was singing We Belong? You see an episode like this, and it's like Cam, she's been so invested in Cam. But yeah, I mean, that the place that she got to with Gordon, I'm just so happy that she got to have the conversation she had with Gordon when he picked her up from the police station. Even though that's a terrible night and that's a low point, I think knowing that Gordon's going to die soon after, now she can look back and she can keep that piece of the memory for herself. And it's like the nicest thing, most healing thing that Gordon could have said to her, and she got to hear it. So I really appreciate that for her story here. Let's see. I've got 2 comments from different commenters about a symbol that I wanted to bring in here because it's interesting and totally different takes on it. So Frack and Toaster Lover says, regarding 201, the elephant line is another interesting one. Let me reset this. The family's got some money now. Haley and Joni are at the kitchen table with Gordon. They're like, are we rich now? Gordon says, I don't even really know how to answer that. And Joni's like, well, could we get an elephant rich? Gordon's like, maybe almost. But the thing is, you don't want to get just one elephant. And I don't know if we have the space for it in our house. Okay, so that's the scene. Frack and Toasted Lova says, the elephant line is another interesting one. I took it as a hint about Gordon and Donna. Is their house big enough for an elephant, for either of them trying to fulfill their personal ambitions? Then he points out that an elephant needs a mate or they're going to be lonely. Whenever one of them tries to fulfill their professional ambitions, the other one is left to stay home and take care of the children by themselves and feels lonely and unfulfilled. This season, they basically switch roles. They tried to work together once a long time ago, and again very briefly at Comdex 1983. And we saw them happy for a short time, but they failed both times and gave up. Could they both be pursuing their ambitions while being together as a married couple and taking care of the children? But even if the house somehow manages to contain one elephant, it is definitely too small for two of them, says Gordon to the girls. Put a pin in that for a second, because we have a comment about elephants from Synthetic Gerbil. Hello. This is from 201 also. I almost wonder if the silliness about Joni owning an elephant is a reference to that Simpsons episode where Bart gets an elephant and also finds out they have no room. That seems really plausible. I love it. More than one commenter, more than one take on elephant line. So there's the possible Simpsons reference. There's this more abstract theory about, this representing Donna and Gordon's relationship and the work-life balance that they have each on their own. And I also think once you get all the way here to 408, we've seen Baby Mine come up. I associate Baby Mine with Dumbo, an elephant movie. And we see Baby Joni in this episode has a toy elephant, a little stuffed elephant. So elephants are a big deal. The way I'm interpreting this now is that Donna used to sing Baby Mine to both Joni and Haley, and maybe it stuck longer with Haley. And, Joni had this toy elephant, maybe that was passed down to Haley along the way. Haley had an elephant as well. So elephants are a big deal in this house. There was a fair amount of significance. I'm sure they probably saw Dumbo as a family. So, there's a lot with elephants, more than you'd think. What other elephant symbolism do I need to know? Okay, more from Synthetic Gerbil. A few different thoughts on 407. God, this episode is heartbreaking, and the tears are even harder once you see everyone reacting and telling each other about Gordon's death rather than his beautiful death itself. The next episode had me even in more tears. 407 and 408 together are masterful TV about the effects of loss. I think maybe Gordon doesn't actually collapse in Haley's room. The next episode, Katie says where she found him, and it looks like it was in the living room, probably near where he puts his keys down. So maybe a part of Gordon's vision was walking to Haley's room to see Donna and baby Haley in there, or baby Joni in there, but he didn't physically walk there. Also, I too am confused about whether it was actually baby Joni Donna was holding. That doesn't seem like it would fit with the theme of the Baby Mine song if that were the case. So I think people have said enough that it's baby Joni who worked on the show. And I think, when we see this episode, it seems like it was baby Joni. Elephants were a thing. She probably sang Baby Mine. And I'm thinking Haley just long term asked Donna to keep singing it longer and longer. So we associate it with Haley, but maybe it was a thing for both girls. And this is really the layout of the house is such a mystery for me. It feels like there are two living rooms in this house. So I don't know how this works exactly. I think what would work for me, Synthetic Gerbil, is if Gordon actually physically walking through the house was something he imagined almost the whole time. So maybe he is in his hallway by the front door, checking himself out in the mirror, and then he follows Donna into the first room, collapses there, and the rest of it is in his head as he's dying. That can work. You can talk me into that working. What I don't want to imagine, what ruins it all for me, is if I think that Gordon actually did walk that whole route, got to Haley's room, and then left the room and fell on the floor in whatever room Katie found him in, because that makes me feel like it was a much more violent thing than what the show depicted. And I just don't want to think that for Gordon. And it might have been that way, but I don't want to think that way. So yeah, thoughts, folks? I don't know. This is such a gruesome thing to unpack. I don't know. Okay, another thought from 407. Maybe a fun fact to a small few, the font on the credits of Pilgrim is the same font used for a lot of LucasArts, Lucasfilm games like Monkey Island, Full Throttle, and Day of the Tentacle. Also, somewhat related to the graphics of Community being completely based on the C64 DOS graphics and character of Maniac Mansion, an early LucasArts Lucasfilm game. The George Lucas funded company that George barely had anything to do with was known for creating the most masterful and best adventure games of all time, which is what Cameron tends to make, except for Extract and Defend and possibly the Space Bike series. Although it does appear now Cameron is working on The Sims, like you said. That's a fun detail. I like that. Thank you for that. 407, let's talk about wine, shall we? Donna having a wine glass while playing Pilgrim is interesting here. I get the feeling it's intentional as it's not from the same shots as before because Donna was wearing different clothes and the lighting is a little bit different for the room. So what could it mean? Is it just showing us that Donna is not completely sober? She still winds down with a little bit of alcohol and can handle it now? Or maybe Donna still wants to drink when she's thinking too hard about Cam? I have no idea. So first of all, I'm not going to notice that she was wearing this different clothing. So I appreciate that detail because it certainly makes it feel like this was intentional. And yes, so then what made her drink on this particular day? Was it, related to thinking about Cam? It's a good question. And thank you for that extra detail around the clothing for sure. I have another comment about the wine in a little bit, so I'm going to dig into that more when we get to that one. But one more comment from 309. One thing your deep dive in this episode got me thinking about is much later on after Gordon has passed away, in Goodwill, Joni says to Donna that you couldn't even stand him. But even when Gordon and Donna are playfully jabbing at each other, very little of the scenes from this episode and on involve Gordon and Donna fighting with each other. Even the Haley's Comet situation could have been so much worse. They seem to get along much better divorced at this point. Donna seems to also drop hints here that there she wishes maybe she was with Gordon sometimes. So I never fully bought what Joni was saying here. However, you could just make the argument that Joni was just saying that in the process of saying whatever she could to hurt her mom in that moment, which is true, right? Donna bringing Gordon in hurt Joni, so Joni was trying to hurt her back. That could absolutely be it. Synthetic Gerbil dropped this comment all the way back in 309. So I've been thinking about this and really looking at these scenes with Donna and Gordon. And there are some tense scenes, especially with their co-parenting dinners. But Joni didn't see those. So I wonder if what Joni is referencing there is stuff that was formative for her when Donna and Gordon were getting divorced. I'm sure that wasn't all roses and rainbows, right? So I think maybe for her, that stuff really jumped out and she was thinking about that process. We also know that Donna has continued to, even as they've been on slightly better terms than that, Donna has continued to be a competitor and a very active competitor against Gordon, even stealing an idea of his to build out a product that would compete with an idea he has presented to her. So I don't know. Joni is really perceptive. Joni picks up on a lot. She has for a long time. Joni's the one who walked in on the fight between them, where, it was revealed that Gordon had an affair. That was a big fight that she might be thinking about. So I don't know, maybe it's stuff not from the stuff we've seen in this season, but from when things really went down with the divorce. Could be it. Okay, some thoughts from Amelia Flowers. First of all, from 308, it's wonderful the continued relationship Joe and Cam have with Joni and Haley throughout the show. And I'm sure Joe, being a really flexible babysitter, probably for free, was so grateful to be trusted to do that. Yeah, it's that connection between Joe and the girls and Cam and the girls is really paying off in this episode. We know that Cam lived with the girls for a while when they first got to California. We know, Joe has spent a lot of time with the kids more recently and works with Haley, and he has his own connection with Haley. So I think, the payoff in this episode is huge because it takes a village, it takes a whole community of people to support each other here. And it can't just be leaning on Donna to be the parent. And, we've got Katie floating in. We've got Cam. We've got Joe there. There's an extensive network. And, these girls, Boz loves these girls too. And he's making sure they're getting fed. And I just think, like, even if we haven't always seen every moment with these people together, it's, that the bond is there with these kids to make them feel supported. Now, Amelia has another thought about the wine question from 407. I think the arrest has made Donna think about drinking and driving. So no drink while visiting Diane, but she can at home. Perhaps the added stress of seeing Cam on top of everything else. Okay, so that's in common between what Amelia and Synthetic Gerbil said. But yeah, maybe it's their rules around drinking and driving, but not necessarily for when she's home. So here in this episode, when she says she declines wine at the table, she's at Gordon's house and she's going to have to get back to her place. So maybe that's why she's not drinking here. From 304, more stuff about Cam's mom. Kim's mom, we don't get a lot of info, again, from season 1, episode 8, and the talk with Gordon. She gives us a little info, something about her mom's new boyfriend trying to win her over by getting her first computer, an Apple II, for Christmas, and by New Year's having disassembled and reassembled it 4 times. And the boyfriend had hung in there until Easter. Initially, I took this as Cam had forced him out, but with this new info, perhaps it was the antics of her mother. I read one fic and Cam's backstory felt so real, but I don't think we really know any more than there's something very broken in their relationship even to this day. By filling in the gaps, her husband died in Vietnam and left her to raise a 9-year-old girl. It doesn't take a far jump to assume that the situation wasn't good for either of them emotionally or fiscally. And perhaps in trying to find a suitable replacement man, then there was even more pain. And whatever happened, Cam's mom was on a downward spiral until something happened, maybe Len, but that didn't fix the relationship with her daughter. Yeah. So Amelia, I also want to go back to you because we're pulling in some different details from what Frack and Toaster Level pulled in from 402. But this is all the stuff we've been getting about Cam's mom and her relationship with her. And so this is, I think we get the immediate aftermath of Kim's mom wanting everything to be perfect, wanting her daughter to be Little Miss Flawless. But then as time goes on, her mom's going to date more people, and it's not very long-term usually. And she's getting into substances and she's not showing up for Cam. And Cam walks away from all of that. And then eventually, I guess her mom meets Len and it's a more stable thing and she's doing better, but maybe Cam doesn't trust it. The more we know now about Kim's mom and we know about Joe's dad, and we know both of them had a parental death, and maybe at this point it helps us to have a better picture of what they're healing in each other by being together. Okay. One more thing from Amelia Flowers is a question from 407. Okay, so what is Alexa offering or want from Cam? Great question. I've wondered about this character on previous watches. So I would like to posit a thesis statement of a theory, and I want to see if this holds up over the next 2 episodes because we are going to see a bit more Alexa. What if Alexa comes from money? What if it's family money? Her parents are loaded. Alexa grew up wealthy. And she is well networked with people of high net worth. And so she can go to these conferences whenever she wants. She can hobnob at tables and events that a lot of people wouldn't otherwise have access to. She can have all these great idea conversations, but has Alexa herself ever rolled up her sleeves and gotten to work to create something? So that's where I want to start my theory from. I don't know if this will hold up, but I'm starting there and I'm curious because I don't notice her clothes. So does it even hold up from how she is presented to us? I'm going to start there and see where we go with the next couple episodes. Cause I think that plot wise that could work, but I'm going to have to see. I don't know, just working it out. It's fun to have something to explore and discover for the first time in this rewatch process with all of you. Okay. And now some thoughts from Evan the Stray. First, a couple comments about 407 that I wanted to bring in here. Cam removing belongings was a good point from Joe's apartment. That had to remind Joe of Sarah and was likely a generally discouraging sign. In Haley and Joe's future conversations, I could see Joe sharing that Gordon understood Haley's preference if he thought that would be good to share in the moment. So regarding Cam's belongings, yeah, Cam goes to Joe's apartment to take out some toilet paper and some of her clothes, thinking Joe wasn't going to be there. And when Sarah was breaking up with Joe, she was doing this thing where she'd go to Joe's place or their house or their apartment when Joe wasn't there. She'd take some things, she'd move some stuff, and then he would be like, yeah, I feel like you want me to see this. We heard him saying that to her in a voicemail. So maybe it's bringing that back for Joe. And Evan the Stray, I feel like we're feeling the same thing. Like, yeah, in the future, Joe can pass along to Haley that like your dad knew more about you than you think he did, and he accepted you and he loved you. And maybe she might need that one day, and he can be there for that. Okay, from 408. We're bookending this episode with a blast from the past, 1976. Donna's hair is so dark and long, more on the year later. So much for the Donna Dark theory here. She is incredibly patient and kind to cranky Gordon. Yep, I know that Donna's hair theory has been one you've been investigating. Donna thinks her mom is all about appearance. This is a feeling we hear later from Joni regarding Donna being all about appearance when she's talking to Cam. Yeah, I love that that we got those lines to connect to these generations. Gordon gets upset with Donna that she engaged her mom in conversation about moving to Texas. Then he goes kitchen sink on her. I suppose it's good we have this early version of Gordon to remind us how far he came from the woe is me days and playing the victim broken record. He feels like he hasn't made any of the decisions to get them in their current situation. Shaking my head. Yeah, it's, just when you're thinking, oh, Gordon, what a great guy at the end of his death episode, you come back to this and you're like, well, he got there, I mean, he was a human. There were great things about him and he made some mistakes. Evan points out like Melissa Bernstein's baby played baby Joni. We've heard this in a couple different places, and that's a really fun thing to bring back in here when it's relevant for the episode. Thank you for that. When Gordon flies the coop, he briefly hangs out at a gas station along Pleasant Hill Road, east of Oakland near Walnut Creek, if that road is still generally true to 48 years ago. Just barely, we get a split-second glimpse of a gas station sign illuminated and displaying 200 years July 4th discount, which is referring to the U.S. bicentennial in 1976. Therefore, the baby is Joni since she is 17 in 94. Okay, so helpful to have that math, especially, if any of us have questioned, like, which baby are we talking about here? That really helps us see that it tracks and that they found a really good real life situation to connect it with. Gordon Clark, born in 1953. It's been about 10 days since Gordon died. Yeah, I like that they gave us exposition on that in a way that was creative. Just Joni drops that line in a fight. Joe's eulogy. Donna would like a copy. Can we please see a copy? Like his letter from the episode 201 that he sent to Gordon and Cam. I'd like to read both. Yeah, that seems fair. I mean, we get the idea though, right, Evan? Like, we're not going to get it. I don't think we're missing a huge chunk of information, but I think in the process of grieving, it would be nice to have it. We see a literal needle drop for Dire Straits, So Far Away, one of the top 5 song moments for me in the show. As a matter of fact, I'm listening to it right now as I'm typing this because I like to pretend that I'm typing this in Gordon's hacienda. Aw. Joe is holding the paperback novel Streets of Laredo by Larry McMurtry, which is a sequel to his book Lonesome Dove. The cursory glance of the book's plot, I'm uncertain at any comprehensive direct analogy to the show. Texas is featured in the novel along with a character from the East Coast that is somewhat incompetent, but I don't see that being Joe, unless that's in season 1, Gordon's mind, Joe making requirements for the giant. I mean, yeah, so it looks like Evan and I both did a little bit of digging on Streets of Laredo, but haven't read it. So if anybody has, is there anything relevant to this plot that we should know about? Joni is not going to college, at least for her current words. And we see a pretty massive blow up that pains everyone in earshot. And I still feel worst for Joni. Come on, Donna. This was definitely not the time to have the conversation. Yeah. I mean, using the Gordon card too for this. Wow. Joe is going to take Haley to get Gordon's sweater. He so very much wants to help make something about this greater situation right. I imagine he feels so powerless about everything happening in his life right now, and no amount of effort or struggle will produce different opinions and outcomes. Yeah. I mean, my heart breaks for Joe. It sounds like it does for Evan as well. And I don't know, for people listening, if there was somebody else's grief that you connected to more, because this is just two people's opinions. Cameron is talking with Joni and doing a stellar job at it. Cam has a pretty good near monologue on Joni giving her mom a break. Joni would have been part of my crowd in high school. I feel like I hung out with her, drank beers, and smoked cigarettes with her at parties many times. Man, what the hell did we know? Maybe we just wanted to buck the window dressing of our families. Yes, but also Joni is on top of it so much of the time. Like, she is accurately assessing. She's intuitive and she gets it, and she accurately assesses a lot of really important information. Even if she is annoying about how she delivers it and gets rid of people, like, what is she wrong about usually? Like, think back. So yeah, I mean, I like that we've got Joni here. I think she's got the confidence to speak her thoughts, and her thoughts are often noticing things that are really happening. Haley's fish head song feels like some serious reversion to childhood to help her cope with the trauma of Gordon dying. I feel like you can really see it strike Joe with that realization. Yeah, but it's funny. Donna boxes up heirloom stemware. She describes the silliness, and Cam remarks, "That's pretty dark. Heirlooms can definitely feel like a burden." During the same scene, Donna tells Cam she finished the game, and that begins to build a bridge between them. I mean, it's so beautiful. The Goodwill employee is some minor levity in an otherwise tear-laden episode, along with the garbage bag heist and Haley driving the getaway truck. Another below-the-radar possible gag moment of levity, or was it candid, was at 29:03 into the episode when Cam and Katie hug when Katie arrives at Gordon's home, when the camera is behind Katie. I'll call it the furtive flatus. It's subtle, but it's there. With headphones on and sufficiently loud, it's very noticeable. It gave me a minor laughing fit. I blame it on the general anesthesia, such lowly humor. First of all, I hope you're feeling okay, Evan the Stray. And I didn't notice this, but apparently it's there. And it's something that I guess they didn't fix it in post. So there's that. Cam is thinking about leaving Joe. Her hard look, brief stare after Katie remarks that it would be hard for Joe if he lost Comet too, triggers pensive consideration. Yes. And I want to skip to the next one. Donna's compliment about Joe being good with the girls really weighs heavily on Cam. She's seriously feeling the implied approval and judgment that he'd make a good father combined with her as a mother. I think these two things together, like, I think Cam's feeling a certain amount of pressure now from all of the situation that's happened, really escalating some of these core issues between Cam and Joe. They want different things. They have since they got together, and they've been articulating that just in a way that doesn't feel like they need to have a direct fight. Well, how much longer can you put that off, Katie's conversation with Donna in the kitchen is so freaking good. Anna's contribution this season has been so appreciated, so much feeling. She delivers amazingly well in every scene. I'm so glad to have this character. Anna Chlumsky, I think it's Chlumsky, just knocks it out of the park every time, from her first monologue about metal music to this episode, just point for point. She has been amazing. And I love the relationship between Katie and Gordon. And I'm sad for her that she wanted this to be the place where things took hold. And she tried. And I think she was on track. And unfortunately, it's going to be another fresh start for her. Katie says to Cam that this is where she found Gordon, the family or living room area off the kitchen. She gets in her car, fighting, crying, and waves goodbye to Haley. She can't handle getting out to say goodbye. This was my first, maybe ugly cry moment. Yeah, Katie, it's hard. Like, there are a couple people in this episode that I think it must be really weird to be them here, like Katie and Boz, because it just feels like you're not quite in the group, but you are in the group. Boz should be in the group, but didn't have the information. Katie's brand new. So yeah, there's just this element that makes them a little bit outside the core. Haley is concerned about feeling isolated as she asks Joni if she's going away too. Joe's instincts about Haley are correct, and I hope he can continue to be there for her. Yeah, I worry for Haley, right? I mean, Gordon's gone, Katie's gone, Joni doesn't feel like she's going to stick around. Boss has an interesting demeanor in his scenes. It's like he's unhappy with a slight bitterness. I'm wondering if it's something akin to survivor's guilt. He just beat his own potential demise, but he's 25 years on Gordon, doesn't have children at home, and a business depending on him anymore. He might be struggling with the unfairness of it all. Boss can see that Joe needs to eat to get some positive chemistry in his brain because Joe is obviously reeling from everything. It's great how he was able to sell Joe on tasting the chili for the girls so it's not too spicy for them. Agreed. I don't know if I necessarily felt that demeanor from Boz the whole time, but I can't help but remark that Boz was the only one who didn't know about Gordon's illness. So I think maybe that's something that might help explain that for you, Evan. But if not, I think the fact that he just, like you said, beat his own potential demise, had a heart attack and lived. I wonder. And, he's probably like, they patched him up, but what's his long-term prognosis? I don't know. I don't know how often he's getting checkups. So like, I wonder if he's thinking about, if he's still very much thinking about his own mortality. I'm sure this is creating a lot of different feelings for Boz. Cam and Donna talk outside. They have a serious heart-to-heart about Joe and children. Cam not wanting to have children, their sadness with losing Gordon, and Donna missing both Gordon and Cam. Cameron says, "I'm here." It's such an unexpected line from her. She's not reciprocating Donna's sentiment, but she is extending receptivity. Donna says she used to tell Gordon everything he did wrong. Cam brings some comfort and humor with, "He did a ton wrong." Yeah, I just wanted to reflect on this for a moment because Cam says, "And I miss you." Or Donna says, "And I miss you." And Cam's like, "I'm here." I think, Evan, you wanted her to say those words, like the way Tom wanted her to say the words, "I love you." But I think Kim has gone a step past that without saying them. I think that Kim instantly goes into, "Let me tell you the deepest, most vulnerable feelings that I have right now, things that could make you look at me differently." She knows Donna's a mom. And for Cam to say, "I don't want kids," like, it's a sensitive thing to say. And she's going there like Donna's really good friends with her today. This is the kind of conversation you have with a good friend. And like, I don't know if she needs to say to Donna, "I miss you too," because she's right here and ready to just have the big conversations like they didn't skip a beat. I don't know. Like, I think that's better than saying, "I miss you." I don't know, just to let it be, just to have the action of leaning on her. Everybody gathers to eat Boz's chili and share some funny stories about Gordon. Joe finally breaks his despondent stare when asked to pass the salt. Joe is in so much pain in this episode. I know it's hard to watch. The camera pans to the empty chair at the empty desk to symbolize we're missing Gordon and to get out our last tears. Aww. Now back to 76, Gordon jumps off the cliff or ledge into the lake or quarry. It's probably the same one where Donna cartwheeled into the water in the story she shared with Joni. There's room here for interpretations of Buddhist and Hindu symbolism of water. Buddhism, samsara, life, death, rebirth, and crossing the river to escape samsara to nirvana. Hinduism, life, strength, and eternity. Maybe it's just Gordon washing away his negative emotion from the day before and getting with the program to move forward. Very cool. Like I shared some thoughts on this, but this is a totally new angle with the religion component of it and the symbolism there. So I love that. I bet there's a lot of interpretations that you can have with this. And I will say, without like telling you it, I've done a number of interviews where people have talked. I've done some interviews where people have talked about this scene and some of the things that they saw in it in terms of how it was shot. So yeah, it'll be fun to see like what people think about this scene. I just don't have all of that interpretation with me right now. Okay, quotes, spice rack, salt. This is a combo from Donna. Hey, did you want the weird priest statues? Or, and Cam says, I already have so many of them at home. Black pepper. Joni says, I bet she's more upset about the fact that she has to tell her friends I'm not going to college and the fact that I'm not going. Cumin, I don't know, cumin combo. Joni says, everything's appearances with her. Look at my perfect house and my perfect pool and my perfect daughters. Did you know that she irons her jeans? Cam says, okay, don't say things you can't take back. Chili powder. Cam says, yeah, I made it for people like you. Unfortunately, there aren't many people like you anymore. Paprika. Katie says, I'm sorry that I couldn't stick it out there for Joe's sake, but there's just too much of Gordon there at Comet, and there's too much of Gordon everywhere here. Red pepper flakes from Joe. Haley, I'm sorry I couldn't get your dad's sweater back. And Cayenne. Cam says, I lost a really good friend, and I don't have that many of those to spare. I know, like, poor me, but I've always had a bit of trouble making those sorts of connections. There's just not a lot of people in my life. And Evan says, this was my second veering into ugly cry. Aw, well, this is Goodwill. It's a big one. A lot of people talk about this as being the best episode. This is, when I see on Twitter people saying, name the best episode of television, a lot of people will say this episode for this show. Fans of the show, at least. So I think, here we are. We've been on this journey. We still have 2 episodes left to see where we go from here. Because we have to go somewhere after the grief episode, and let's just find out. So, to everybody who's watching this, go out there and watch Halt and Catch Fire. Bye.